You're listening to the Zetetic.news Cast on the Zetetic News Network with your hosts, DaveDave and Xavier Diamant. Proceed by inquiry.
All right, welcome to episode 16 of the Zetetic News Cast. It is New Year's Eve, December 30th, 2020. I'm here with my main man, Xavier Diamant. Thanks for joining. And it's been a little bit. It's been more than a month since our last get-together, and lots to talk about for sure. Want to start with a couple updates on the website, our plans for 2021, and sort of the future of, free speech on the internet, really. I guess I'll start with our participation on the THETA network. I would say we've definitely scaled up our participation as a result of the release of episode 15, which was summarily banned by YouTube. In, I think, 2 or 3 days, we got a strike on the account. Now, we've had copyright strikes before, but those have been mostly resolved. I think they were algorithmically, digital rights management for music clips and other pop culture references that we had, and they allowed that stuff to fly on the on our page. But with episode 15, we violated their medical disinformation policy, and we had the audacity to even question the local and global public health officials at the World Health Organization, and I guess our local mayor too, because Xavier, they also prevented me from uploading the short clip of us making fun of Mayor Steve Schewel here in Durham, North Carolina. So I guess you can't even question your local, Politburo on the COVID situation. So as a result of that, we have definitely scaled up our participation on the THETA network. We have been streaming on the Anycast software that THETA Labs released, which is a decentralized video streaming application that's also tied in with a new blockchain. But that was a beta software. They recently made a major update and released the first decentralized streaming digital app for end-to-end live streaming, transcoding, caching, and video delivery. I produced a 20-minute tutorial on this software, and what I did was set up a 24/7 InfoWars restream node sponsored by Zetetic News, just to illustrate how quickly you can get up and running on the Edgecast software, which will allow you to not only watch streams that are on the network, but you will also start relaying video yourself in the background and sharing your bandwidth. And for that, you will be paid in a cryptocurrency called T-Fuel, which, if you follow ZNN, we pay our guests, and we're planning other, modes of incentives, perhaps even a company store, a ZNN store that will allow you to sort of spend the T-Fuel that you earn or have on ZNN merchandise. That's all sort of in the works. But this is also cool for us because it's since it's decentralized and peer-to-peer, this application can't really be censored. It's not a curated content delivery network like YouTube is. It's literally sort of the wild, wild west. You point your streamer to the server, which is literally a mesh network of nodes running on people's PC. And as you deliver video packets, you earn T-Fuel in exchange for that. So now we're running a 24/7 ZNN restream. Right now, it doesn't cost us anything to do that because they're still testing the software, but eventually we'll have to pay T-Fuel in order to, share our content there. So the advantage, of course, is we have control over that. There's nothing that can be done to sort of censor that as long as you have the stream ID you can navigate to it, and we think this is kind of gonna disrupt. At least I think it's gonna disrupt the economics that YouTube have sort of engendered for themselves. Really, a monopoly over the monetization of video creation and distribution. So this is going to put some of those tools back into the hands of the creators, and we're really early to market on this new Edgecast software. So I will include with this episode maybe a link to the tutorial so you can go get set up with a wallet and the application, so you can start earning and also watching ZNN there, because that long term it's going to be much better for everyone if we just sort of abandon YouTube, because they've just become so draconian in their restrictions. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, but I re-uploaded. You suggested that I re-upload it with like altered thumbnail, change the title and the tags and stuff to remove COVID.
Right.
And I did that, and it was like instantly. Actually, before it was even published, they banned it. So
that shows that there's like that algorithmic capability.
Yeah, and episode 15 is still being restreamed right now on THETA Network. There's really nowhere else you can see it. I had trouble uploading it to BitChute. And so if you go check it out, just ask yourself, what did we say that was so dangerous that we deserve to have our speech, stifled? And we predicted this. We knew this was going to happen at some point, and that's why we've been talking about THETA, for so long. The other thing that's happened with the THETA network is they released a THETA token minter. So now you can mint your own tokens on the THETA blockchain, just like you can do that on the Ethereum blockchain. Anybody can go create an ERC20 token for Ethereum and build a digital application on top of that. That is now possible with THETA. It is the same addressing system. So a lot of Ethereum developments, I think, will be ported over, and this really puts even more tools into our hands for monetization. We can perhaps tokenize premium content. We've been talking about different ideas where we can leverage this for, maybe a ZNN coin or some such to reward our loyal subscribers. But it just seems like the developments keep coming to fruition at THETA Network, and it certainly has. The market, I think, has taken notice, because if you check the chart on CoinMarketCap, what I've highlighted the time frame from our last episode, November 19th, all the way to now, and the price has more than doubled for the THETA token, breaking through, really smashing through the $1 mark, which was a big psychological level, and then it was kind of blue skies above that.
Boom.
There wasn't much resistance. I think it went up all the way up to 174 before retracing a bit down to I think 137, $1.37, and now it's back up just a few days later to 162. So at this rate, not only I think we're gonna see like some major U.S. exchanges listing THETA, but also for ZNN. This is really bodes well for us and our financial independence from YouTube and any other sort of let's just say controlled entities that we might have to compromise ourselves to utilize in the grand scheme of getting our content out there. So the same is true for T-Fuel, which is the sub token as Xavier, which is many more times than doubled since then. So, you've been getting a couple T-Fuel here and there for your contributions to the Zetetic.news Network, and I hope this just keeps going up and up and up, and maybe in a year's time, you might have a nice little savings there, at least in dollar terms, right?
I believe so.
But we'll see what a dollar will buy in 2021, right? Because the financial system is a big part of why theta is important and crypto is important, because it's just melting before our eyes, the economy and the measures to prop it up, so to speak, which we'll certainly get into
Absolutely.
in the show. So the other thing I wanted to sort of housekeeping related update everybody on is I did get the lanyards. So I talked about this on the previous show, and even before that on episode 14, when James Iredell, a previous guest, he gave me this no mask lanyard, and I'm gonna switch over to the the document cam, right, where you can see an example of the lanyard.
Bingo. It's like an amulet of power.
And it's got a nylon strap that says medically exempt. I'm not doing a very good job of displaying it right now because
that looks good.
It's hard with the microphone here, but yeah, it's got a what do you call that? A print on the lanyard part that says medically exempt, and then the actual card you can just flash like a badge, so you have as much authority as they do when you go to the grocery store to object to the mask policy. And it simply states, I know you can't read that, but it says wearing a face covering poses a serious health risk to me. And it goes on to say, you know, I'm not required to disclose my health condition to you. And it's just a conscientious objection to the ridiculous mandates that we've seen. And I've even got some video that I'd like to play of my using it at the ABC store. Now, I think it's an interesting discussion, the ABC stores even being open. Mm-hmm. But being a state-run institution, you know, they're very draconian in our area, at least this area, on wearing masks. And they've got signs all over the exterior. And I've been told that they'll bark at you as soon as you come in the door if you don't have a mask. So I wanted to test it out and see how it works. So let me pull this video up and see if we can get some audio.
Dave here. I'm going to pick up some alcohol. Gonna see how my lanyard works. I can't wear one. I've got an exemption.
And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. She didn't even read it. She just nodded her head and said, okay. And I've had a couple other interactions where they did read it, but they read it, and then they looked at me and said, okay. So,
yep.
It's one approach.
I have tried it. It works as well. I went to the Asian supermarket. Nothing.
You weren't even asked about it?
Yeah, zero. I checked out without even a flinch. Nothing was said.
Now, I have to admit, I was kicked out of a Christmas tree lot after Thanksgiving.
Unreal.
Unfortunately, I did not have my surveillance pin on. I'm really kicking myself for that. Should have been better prepared, but I wasn't anticipating going to this particular lot on this day. And nevertheless, we went there, and they said on their website that they require a mask, but they didn't have any signs outside. And this lot is in a parking lot.
Open air.
Open air. It's a company I'm not going to mention because I did have a good conversation with a manager there, but let's just say they don't own the parking lot. They rent it, or it's maybe donated to them for a fundraiser. And anyways, no signs. Go in. Me and my family, including my 2 young children, we're the only ones without masks.
Ugh.
And that's fine. We play it so normal.
Right.
All the employees are friendly. I actually asked for help a couple times. Nobody said anything about me not wearing a mask. During checkout, my wife was buying some garland and was offered a mask. She declined. Immediately, there was no conversation. This clerk picked up the phone, called the manager. This guy comes out of nowhere, and I see him. I'm all the way at the exit waiting for my tree to be put on the car. This guy comes out of nowhere. He starts barking at my mom, who's a respiratory therapist, by the way, and works with, vulnerable populations, etc., who would be more likely to transmit a disease, if you believe in that. Mm-hmm. And, she's pretty compliant, puts on the mask, no big deal. But he's like barking at her. And then he sees me, he eyes me and barks at me from like 20 yards away and is like, I need you to put on a mask. And I said, no. Right. You're not going to bark at me from 20 yards away. And I don't know you. He didn't even have the company like shirt on. He was just some guy in a black shirt. I'm like, no. How did it just transform like this? Almost like as soon as Biden was elected. I mean, I know it's been going on all year, but like it seems like almost like Biden was elected. So now people feel justified, like just telling you what to do. So anyways, he comes closer and like, he's like, I need you to wear a mask. I was like, I heard you the first time. And I said, no. I was like, I'll read this. Because I did have the lanyard on.
Right.
He didn't even read it. He's like, I know, but I need you to wear a mask. And I'm like, well, you don't know, because if you read it, you wouldn't have said what you just said now. And he's like, I need you to wear a mask or leave the property. And I'm like, I'm trying to leave the property as soon as possible. I look up, I'm literally standing under the exit, and I'm like, okay, so I take one step back and I'm like, all right, do you feel safe now? And he just turns to me and then he goes and has an altercation with my wife. And because they were like chainsawing the other trees, getting them ready to be put on the car, I didn't hear what went on, but my wife told me she was like publicly shamed. He went over and gave her a hard time. She didn't have a mask, wasn't going to wear one. It was in the car across the lot, which she would have had to walk to go get and then come back. And then they're like, but you were offered one in the checkout area. And she's like, she probably should have led with, well, I have a health condition, I can't wear one. Don't even enter into this discussion about, well, I don't have one right now, right. So anyways, this other lady hears the manager kind of like berating her about the rules, and then is like, thank you so much for enforcing the rules and protecting us against people like her. And this is very upsetting. It's like, we're here to get our Christmas tree, and this is just terrible. And I know I've told you this story already, but as it pertains to the mask, I don't do a whole lot of the shopping and stuff, and so it hasn't really impacted me like it has my wife. But this was like a major turning point in the whole mask discussion in our household, and it's like, clearly this is not for our safety. This guy cares nothing for our health, and just all the hypocrisies around it is sort of like emblematic of the times we're in.
Definitely.
Because like now at Costco and Target, you can wear these face visors. And it's like, well, there used to be an argument about the effectiveness of masks, but now we're going to allow this. These have never been tested in any sort of medical setting. They're literally an invention to get around wearing of the mask, but they're being endorsed. So it's kind of like, man, it's like, the slippery slope is so obvious,
Definitely.
because they started with you can wear a face covering, but it could be a bandana, it could be a shirt, and it's like, but those aren't effective. So what is this really about?
Yeah, it's about creating a compliance culture.
Right.
It's about creating this sort of pseudo care that I've discussed in previous episodes, where people get to virtue signal like they're compassionate when in fact they're just inflicting harm on themselves, and they're not lending any sort of semblance of protection to anyone else. It's this weird, like, internalized mafioso script, like, oh no, you need my protection, you need me to harm myself with this face diaper, So it's kind of like, well, no, I actually don't need I don't need your protection. Like, thank you very much.
I waive the benefits.
Right. Yeah, thank you for your concern, even though I don't think that it comes from an informed place. But yeah, I don't. There's no incentive for me to cooperate if it violates principles of mine.
Right.
Sorry.
I went shopping at Harris Teeter the other day. I had my lanyard, and I have not uploaded this video yet, but I'm preparing an advertisement for this lanyard where you can easily and seamlessly defend your rights not to wear a mask. But upon entering, I approached a lady with the hand sanitizer. She said, "Would you like a mask?" "No, thank you."
No thanks.
"No, thanks." And she just looked at me like bizarre, like Bizarro world.
Short circuit.
I answered the question you asked,
Right.
So anyways, to give her more information, put her at peace at mind.
Yeah.
I showed her the lanyard.
Yeah.
And she read it, and she said, okay, and was cool with it. But then on my way out, I did all my shopping. She approaches me as I'm leaving the establishment. Is like, "Oh, we have a box of masks over here in case you wanted them." And I'm like,
"Thank you.
We already had this conversation."
No thanks. Yeah.
And I was like, "You heard me? No, like I can't. I have a it's a health risk to me." And she's like,
Right.
"Oh, well, you can also wear these visors, Not that they were offering them to me, but
are
like,
you gonna give me one for free? Like,
right. I should have asked that, but I was also like, I just didn't stop walking, and I was
Right.
just kind of like, no. I just kind of like walked away,
Right.
like, who are you?
Right. Exactly.
That's what I think. That's where people need to get,
and the thing it's a divide and conquer campaign. It's used to create this overlay between human interaction where, both parties feel like they're being affronted.
Right.
Automatically, affront at first sight, essentially, and it's creating a sort of segregationary consciousness that I think is the kind of new segregation that's happening.
Well, we talked about it in a previous episode, the Scarlet Letter.
Right.
This was the Scarlet Letter, and it was obvious from the beginning that that's what it was, because at first it was like it's always kind of been, to me, it's like a Scarlet Letter of compliance. Like it's indicative of to what extent you subscribe to the ideology that has been laid out for you. So, for example, if you are wearing, what was that helmet?
It was like called the Vulture or something.
Here we go.
Yeah.
The visor.
Visor.
Yeah. VYZR. And this guy's in like looks almost like one of those kid backpacks that you put your kid on, but it's I'm not showing it right now. If you're just listening, head over to Zetetic.news. There's a video component of this, and I'm now sharing the visor, an image of the visor, which is this new invention. It's just like a like a spacesuit, like half of a spacesuit helmet that goes over you to protect you from the COVID. And this guy's wearing it looking all serious. But so like if you're wearing that, to me, you are so much deeper into the ideology of compliance than, like you, for example, you wear kind of like the mesh.
Oh yeah, like
the totally see-through, obviously ineffective, just joke of a mask.
Exactly. It's literally like a very thin piece of like mesh that you can get at Michael's, and you just kind of tie it together, and you can see every last hair on my face.
Right.
You
have no trouble breathing whatsoever.
Zero trouble breathing whatsoever. And it's just like a performance art mockery of the entire
Now,
charade.
you have had some objections to it.
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
you?
Yes. Okay, so I went into this small little co-op. I might have discussed this before, but anyway, I get accosted by one of the clerks, and it's like, oh, you need to put on one of these face coverings, and it's one of these fluoride masks. So I'm like, I'm actually allergic to those. This is why that's why I'm wearing something really thin and breathable, because I break out hives.
Right.
You kind of freak them out a little bit, and they just scurried around the corner and just hissed and whispered at it with another employee, and I just checked out, no problem, and left.
Yeah.
But it deters me from ever going back in there again, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I heard Tim Pool compare the mask orders to, well, no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Oh, please.
But that's not actually a mandate.
No.
That's not a government mandate. That's a business by business decision. And if it was a business by business decision, at least you would know which businesses you would want to frequent. Like if you are so vehemently against wearing a mask, you think it's stupid or whatever, and a business wants to enforce that. I sort of respect that prerogative, but when it's the government coming in and saying you have to do it this certain way, it puts all these business people in a terrible position of having to carry out the government's orders when they may not even want to, so I just find that comparison to no shirt, no shoes, no service to be totally inapplicable, because there are businesses that allow you to not have a shirt and no shoes.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. These little country stores or whatever. I mean,
or the beach.
Yeah, the beach. Right.
But it's like, I can't believe people didn't see the slippery slope coming, because they make allowances for these, these, like you wear these ridiculous face coverings, but it's still within the rules.
Sure.
It's that you're doing the minimum required thing to sort of get by.
And avoid interaction, confrontation.
And these compliance ninnies,
charade,
don't they get it? They're the ones who know the law, right?
Right.
So they should just shut the fuck up about it. Why do they even have anything to say to you?
Yeah, I
don't know.
Just nod your head, and these are not the droids you're looking for.
Right.
And, on we go. I mean, that's the thing is, I feel like on some level, if there was just like a, whereas in France there was the yellow vest movement.
Right.
If there was kind of a mass yellow veil movement, and maybe we would be able to front run some Michael stock or something, but and just create this huge demand for yellow mesh, and everyone just, okay, all right, we're going to comply with your stupid little mask ordinance. I'm going to flag my mockery of it all, because it's non-enforceable. It's a totally proxy it's Munchausen by proxy, essentially. Mass Munchausen by proxy. And people don't have to actually preoccupy themselves so much going into stores with this stuff. I mean, I wish that there was a huge demonstration like that. If you had 1 million people strong, social media hashtag it,
Well, it
yellow
does
veil
seem,
movement.
The news cycle this week does seem to be highlighting some of the unfortunate confrontations that seem to be happening increasingly as a result of the mask policy. I think that there was that video, that woman in CVS that went viral, who was clearly having a standoff, but there have been multiple of these sorts of confrontations happening among unfortunately very low IQ looking people who are, I guess they think they're doing a good thing, and that's probably the saddest thing about it. Is it's very indicative of the level to which, you know, they've been programmed by the media. And that's, to me, that's kind of been a hallmark of 2020, is how vertically integrated the media really has become. I think you know,
100%.
if you don't see it by now, I don't know if you'll ever see it, you know, because it's just been so, we played that clip on the last episode where, you know, all these different local affiliates, ABC, CBS, they were all reading off the same script.
Yep.
And as it pertains to the election and the voting situation and really Donald Trump and COVID, it's been as consistent as I've ever remember it being consistent, to the point of like, really, guys, you're not even going to try to be more subtle. You're not going to do more like Simpsons predictive programming or like very subtle sort of techniques. No. It's just, now we're at the stage of repeating the same thing over and over and over. Like, so as an example, we got the vaccine now, Xavier. Aren't you pumped?
Oh man,
aren't you pumped? We got it. Can't we go back to normal now? We got the vaccine.
Woo! Let's get back to the festivals and maybe go see a concert, and you know, we can all just present our immunity passports wherever we go.
So we got the vaccine.
Awesome.
I cannot believe how many so-called intelligent people I know have said to me over the last 11 months, 9 months. I know it sucks, you know, but hopefully the vaccine comes out and we can go back to normal. That's the most laughable indication of your lack of awareness, in my opinion, that I just can't respect a person saying that the same ever again. Because it's just so in your face. But what I was saying is, I try to find this video here now that we have this vaccine, to sort of illustrate the vertically integrated nature of the media these days. And this, I literally had to go to InfoWars and use the search feature in InfoWars to find this video, because it's just the first thing that comes up is PolitiFact. Nashville nurse does not get Bell's palsy from vaccine. And if you're just listening to this podcast, please head over to Zetetic.news and check out the video component of this broadcast. Because what I'm showing is a video that really you can only find on, as far as I've been able to find easily on Google or even DuckDuckGo. I couldn't find this result. It's a video of a nurse giving a legit testimony. Okay. They're all saying like, Snopes, this didn't happen. She didn't get it. She didn't get Bell's palsy. Well, whatever she has, she's fucked up. She's been maimed, you know, and, it's like when doctors start trying to figure out what's wrong with you, they say, well, what's changed? What have you been doing differently that you haven't, you know, they're trying to figure out what's
disrupted your homeostasis.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I haven't done a whole lot different. Maybe I ate a little more than I normally do, but it's the holidays. Oh wait,
Right.
I did get this vaccine, and now half of my face, I can't smile anymore. Well, no, that has nothing to do with it. It's like, come on. So anyways, check this out. Nurse gets Bell's palsy from this new vaccine.
Hi, I am a registered nurse in Nashville, Tennessee, and my name is Kalila Mitchell. I'm reaching out to everyone about the COVID-19 vaccination. I recently took the COVID-19 vaccination. After the shot, I felt fine, but within 3 days, I went to the doctor because I had problems with my face. The whole left side of my face, actually. I have Bell palsy now. And as you can see, I can't smile. I'm trying to smile. I'm just kind of embarrassing for it. But I just want everyone to know that I think this vaccination is the worst thing ever. And I would not give this to anybody, even my worst enemy. Please, America, they do not care about us. Do not take this vaccination.
It's hard to believe the year 2020. Sorry for the loudness there, but I think y'all got the picture. What did they say? Vulnerable minorities need to get it first? Because they care about those black people? Right? Black Lives Matter. That's why we got to get the COVID vaccine out as soon as possible to the underclass.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, that's just an anecdote, though, right?
Well, you know, let's hope it's not indicative of a broader, plan of assailment. You know. Oh wait, yeah, it definitely probably is. Yeah.
Well, you sent me this Pfizer ad, which I don't want to believe it's real.
Confirmed that this is actually 100% real, or if it's just like a really clever, slick meme. But oh my gosh, it tells more than one would ever want to see.
Yeah. Right after the Bell's palsy video, it's kind of very fitting. But if you're just listening, Xavier shared with me a real or purported Pfizer advertisement, and it says, "We're partnering to improve health for all," and it's all these people with masks on, and it says, "and to put a smile back on your face," and then they've got, they've clearly, like, I guess the implication is they've gotten the vaccine, they got the jab. They took the mask off because we can get back to normal now, and all of their faces are contorted, like, half smiling, as is the case with Bell's palsy and Guillain-Barré and other disorders which have been attributed, or at least anecdotally experienced, by those who have had either the COVID vaccine or other vaccines.
Oh yeah, let's definitely never investigate the preponderance of toxic ingredients in the salvific jab.
Well, why don't we do a little bit of live research? Because I haven't looked into what is actually in this Pfizer COVID vaccine.
How could you be doing this dissident research?
Here we go.
You're supposed to just relinquish it.
Fact sheet
Your bodily
for
autonomy.
healthcare providers administering vaccine. Where are the ingredients? Okay, this is all about storage, dilution, dosing, and schedule. Where's the ingredients? Adverse reactions. What do they say about that?
What do they say? Which is just, it's like, no, it's a unwanted indirect
Here we go.
result.
Adverse reactions following the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine that have been reported in clinical trials include injection site pain, fatigue, headache, muscle pain, chills, joint pain, fever, injection site swelling, injection site nausea, malaise, and lymphadenopathy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what lymphadenopathy is, but I don't think I want it. What's interesting, a lot of these are COVID related symptoms, and I've actually seen signs outside of certain grocery stores that say, do not come in the store if you have any of these symptoms. And I'm like, hold on a second. Wait a second. If I have a headache now, I can't go to the grocery store. That's the implication. It doesn't even have to be COVID confirmed.
Of course.
It's just a symptom. Listen, my wife has a headache every fucking day. Are we supposed to? And you can't use the store now if you're sick. That's now the implication, which is just crazy. Why haven't we ever done this before? Oh, this is different.
Just
This is different. Okay. This is very short on ingredient.
No.
All right, let me do ingredients. FDA approved package insert. Oh no, same thing.
Oh yeah, notice how that's just for the healthcare provider, and they forward you this, you know, diluted little piece of nothing paper that doesn't actually go into the nitty gritty at all.
Oh, I think I got something here. No.
Oh, same thing. Yeah. It's basically like a PR press release. Like, do not question beyond these questions.
Oh, here we go. What
asked
are
for
the
you.
ingredients? Okay, includes the following ingredients. mRNA, generally. Do you see that? Just, that's the first, okay, so in packaging, right? When you put ingredients in food, you list the one that is most plentiful, right? Right?
Right.
So the primary ingredient is mRNA. Okay.
So that could actually, that single ingredient could be 20 times more ingredients than the rest of the ingredient list.
Everything else could be like 1% of the entire solution. We don't have the exact proportions, but interesting.
Oh, and then just lipids.
Lipids,
Next.
yeah.
Lipids. And then it's like a crazy synthetic compound. So yeah, that's real specific too. Yeah, let's look at this, 7 parentheses complex compound. That's sufficient information for someone asking about.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then, more of that, same thing. Many more lines of that. And then, some preservatives. You can ask Snopes, and they'll fact check it for you. These are just preservatives at the bottom.
I don't see any aborted fetal cells, but I'm sure that's just lumped into mRNA, right?
Or in the lipids.
Right. Incredible.
Wow. Yeah. So, is the administrator of this particular procedure going to spell out what those chemical compounds mean? If you ask them, do you know how to define this compound? Oh, no? Yeah, I don't want to consume that. Thanks.
Well, speaking of, you sent me this video of the administration of the vaccine in the UK.
Yeah.
So if you're just listening, I'm playing a video now. It's only 50 seconds of a drive-by vaccination operation in the UK, which, I don't know. It's like the UK and Australia are kind of in a race for the most draconian COVID regulations in the West, I would say. If you well, of course, Australia's in the East, but you know what I'm saying? They're Western culture, Westernized.
Right.
But check this out. I'll share my comments after this. It's insane.
Santa hats.
Okay, and you've not had a temperature in the last 24 hours. Not had a new cough. Not had a loss of sense of smell or taste. Okay? Okay, ready? 13, 10. Perfect, well done. The information, okay? Yeah, hold that for me.
I can hardly look.
Okay, well done. That was quick. Okay, Mr. Simpson, are you ready?
Drive-by. The way they're acting, it's like they're delivering lifeboats on the Titanic. They're like, come, all the women and children.
Right.
In you go. We're in this together.
Right.
Shared sacrifice. Look, these people look freaked out.
Oh, it's because it's dehumanizing. They're being treated like cattle.
Really?
Literally.
If I could pull up a video of one of the industrial farms, I'm sure you could see that
exactly what
the
happens.
assembly line vaccination program for farms. Yeah, this is Animal Farm. Truly frightening. And in the UK, I think they're maybe ahead of everybody else in terms of their application of the just the economic sanctions on daily activity if you aren't complying. I know that they're talking about, if not already experimenting with, the COVID passport. They also have implemented, in many cases, I've seen the QR code on the front of the buildings. So like you're supposed, they actually, I got a notice. I set up a tablet recently, and when I went to go download a new app on Google Play, it recommended this North Carolina COVID tracker app, and said, oh, this is the official, approved by North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services app. And it was like served up to me before I even downloaded it. So this is what's going on in the UK, is they've got sort of a interconnection with the phones, and it's part of the digital economy now, Oh my gosh. And actually my wife had so she went to a nail salon, and she had a visor, because they allow it at Costco. If it's good for Costco, it's good for anywhere, right?
Should be.
Well, this guy's from Vietnam, and I don't know if they're just like super compliant or whatever. He didn't even process that she was complying with the rule, and he literally like tossed a mask to her, like after she said, no, I have a health condition, I'm gonna wear this. And like when you get a lip wax, you take your fucking mask off anyways,
right?
So it's idiotic. But the guy like was super rude to her. And before she even got in this altercation about the mask, they were asking her for her phone number, which they never did before.
Oh my god!
And that's the contact tracing that's going on. And now they're normalizing it in the UK with like the QR code. Oh, you don't have to bother typing in your numbers. You might get it wrong, so we can't track you. So you just take a picture of this QR code, and we know who you are, and we know that you've got all the right, immunities, which is absurd, by the way. Absurd.
It's ghastly.
So also, since our last episode, I saw a relative post a quote from Fauci. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. I vaccinated Santa Claus, Fauci tells kids.
Oh yeah, what was that principle that we talked about before? Like there's
that's different principle,
or the fiction on fiction principle. Like if there's one thing that's clearly a fiction referring to something that's supposed to be real, the thing that's supposed to be real is probably just another fiction.
Let's see what Fauci said here.
And Elmo is back for something else that I think is on a lot of kids' minds.
Oh my God.
How did Santa get the
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know. If you're listening, you got to head over to Zetetic.news. It's got a video component. I'm playing a clip from CNN Sesame Street, which is clearly compromised now. They got Elmo in a fucking mask. And what I was trying to play is Fauci talking about vaccinating Santa Claus, but they show Elmo in a mask. Look at the bottom of the advertisement here. I'm sorry. The ABCs of COVID-19. A CNN/Sesame Street town hall for families? This is even more disgusting than I thought.
Dude, I'm telling you, man.
About Santa Claus. How did Santa get the vaccine? Is it safe for him to go in the house?
How can Santa Claus safely give out presents with COVID-19 spreading everywhere? How can he do it?
Will Santa still be able to visit me in coronavirus season? What if he can't go to anyone's house or near his reindeer?
Well, I have to say I took care of that for you because I was worried that you'd all be upset. So what I did a little while ago, I took a trip up there to the North Pole. I went there and I vaccinated Santa Claus myself. I measured his level of immunity and he is good to go. He can come down the chimney. He can leave the presents. He can leave, and you have nothing to worry about.
Look at his face.
Santa Claus is good to go.
Dr. Fauci, you've made so many kids around the world so happy just now. Dr. Fauci.
Look at the narcissistic, self-assured
This
serial
is
killer.
Hardcore treason.
I am so sickened right now.
Yeah.
So I think this is abusive. First of all, it's psychologically abusive.
Gaslighting.
But also,
Definitely.
it's so in your face. Look at me, how pseudoscientific I am. Like you said, fiction on fiction.
Right.
He's so full of shit. You have to believe it. You have to be asleep to believe it. Like George Carlin says, like this is fantasy bullshit.
Right.
Not only that he could measure someone's immunity. That's what he says. I measured his immunity. He's good to go. How do you measure someone's immunity? How do you do that? Is it a score? Is it like a credit score?
Ooh.
I mean, seriously.
That's the implication.
I took your levels, and I could tell, the composition of your blood. I did your blood work, and you've got good zinc levels, and so I gave you the good immunity score. Like, really, how scientifically? I think this guy has no idea about how the human body regulates itself. Or
look at him, he's a huckster.
He is. He's so
huckster.
full of shit. And these are adults. Can you imagine being in a room with adults who would put this out on TV and think it's either funny to anyone or, I mean, I feel sorry for any kid who believes that this is reassuring, because they've clearly already been traumatized by the COVID hysteria and fear-mongering, that they would even be in a position to need to be reassured that Santa... So I had a relative post this quote from Fauci where he says, I took care of that for you. I took a trip up there to the North Pole. I went there and I vaccinated Santa Claus myself. I measured. But the relative was posting this in a positive way. Like, this is cute. This is funny.
Reassuring.
Oh, my kids they just got a real kick out of this. Ha ha ha. And I said, LOL. Measured his, quote unquote, measured his level of immunity as scientific as Santa Claus himself.
That's right.
And he said, may the gift man not be a viral vector. All right. I think it's at this point we bust over to the Zetetic News Network Instagram, where we have been blowing it up with some sick ass memes. I discovered a whole library of retarded Wojak and have been really lighting up the internet with some of these. Oh man, I gotta log in to see it, but I've got retarded Wojak here. It says you need to get the second dose to be fully protected, and this dude's got like his brain in a blender. I had a family member who works in a nursing care facility. They got an early shipment of the vaccines, right? And it's interesting because they were voluntary. You would think for healthcare workers it's going to be mandatory, but it's voluntary. You can opt out, but you opt out for now. But you're not going to be exempt from the social pressure of getting the vaccine. So this family member intimated to me, yes, we got the vaccine. They are pushing for us to get it. My boss, the CEO of the company, said, I got mine early. It hurt a little bit, but no big deal. It's all good. She told me 6% of her facility is actually getting a vaccine. 6%, which to me, I was like, damn, like I would think it'd be a lot more.
Sure.
But her boss, she said she literally walked around the halls after they got their shipment. The program was like opened up for everybody. It was like, you get the vaccine? You get it? It was like literally going through the
inventory,
the
entire
cubicles,
staff, yeah.
and like pointing at people and making it a big public thing. And so that's why I created this one here. Is like, you get the vaccine yet? You?
He's got the helicopter dunce cap on.
Oh, man.
Tweedledee.
So do you want to take a moment now and tee up that clip of the lecture? So since we're on this subject of COVID and the vaccine and the masks and all that.
Yeah.
So, well, I haven't seen this yet, so this will all be new for me. Do you want to tee up Dr. Robert Wilner from 1994?
Yeah, Wilner. Okay, so go to I think it's about when he comes first on, he'll do an introduction. That's really good. So from about 1 minute to, I'd say about 10 minutes, you get a really good introduction there. And then another clip I'd like to highlight is about the 40-minute mark.
Okay. All right, so this is called The Virus Deception History, and Xavier has picked some selections out of this hour and 15-minute long lecture.
Crucial, see it now.
It was uploaded yesterday on YouTube. I'm going to download it to the hard drive for future reference because I haven't listened to it yet, but I don't think it's going to be up there very long.
And I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Wilner.
I don't know if you can hear me without the mic. I can hear it. Okay. And because I've done this needle sticking several times already, I'm familiar with some of the things that are put into the press afterwards. And so I want to make a few things very clear before I even start. I have a certificate in sex education, and I taught for a couple of years at the University of Miami Medical School during Sex Education Week to the medical students. I want to make it perfectly clear that I support responsible sex. I call it responsible sex because it goes much further than the concept of safe sex. And I'm not so sure that I know what safe sex is. During this period of time in which especially young people of this country have been threatened with AIDS, a death-dealing disease supposedly, as a consequence of irresponsible sexual behavior, the incidence of venereal disease has climbed, and the incidence of births without benefit of marriage has also climbed, but not AIDS. Really very interesting. So this apparently does not have an effect on the sexual behavior of our young people. And I never for once thought that ever would. It never has throughout history. There's only one thing that will affect sexual behavior, and that's understanding what the responsibilities of sex are. That number one, you're dealing with the feelings and emotions and the lives of another human being when you enter into a sexual contract. Number two, you can contract 6 venereal diseases. And number three, an unwanted pregnancy can occur amongst heterosexuals at least. These are very serious and very important considerations. And the lack of consideration and responsibility in this area creates a cost in human suffering that's incalculable and a cost in monies that is incredible. So don't anyone out there say that I am for irresponsible sex. But I am against lying to our young people. I am against causing death and destruction through that lie. I am against telling a lie to the young people so that they continue in other behaviors which are truly causing AIDS. Now, you've got to ask yourself the reason that I'm here today. And it's been suggested that I'm here to sell a book called Deadly Deception. There's only two ways that you can get the truth to people. By your own words out of your own mouth, and by putting them on paper. And that's the reason for the book. We're talking about probably the most horrible scandal and scam ever perpetrated, not only in the name of science, but in humanity and in all history. Today is December 7th, and I was 12 years old when the attack on Pearl Harbor came, and I remember World War II very well. And it's a very significant day today because I see an incredible parallel between what is going on in the so-called AIDS epidemic and what happened in the years preceding and resulting in World War II. The great lie of Hitler. It's amazing. I think he would envy the job being done by members of the National Institutes of Health and even the media, especially in this country. I charge the media with part of the responsibility, and a very significant one, in a current Holocaust that can end up being worse than the one that occurred during World War II. When it was first announced that Dr. Robert Gallo had found the virus that probably caused AIDS, and that announcement was made with Margaret Heckler in 1984 to the press and to the media without one single scientific document appearing in any journal in the United States. And as we know now, without any proof whatsoever that the virus caused any disease. The media picked up on it for the sake of a story. And soon the virus that probably caused AIDS was now the virus that caused AIDS. It was proven in the press and nowhere else. Now it's interesting, a lot of questions are asked of me whenever I appear before the cameras and do what some people have called a stunt, to sell books. I'm from the planet Earth. I honestly believe that these individuals are from the planet Uranus. How anyone could suggest that I would stick myself with a virus that is supposedly deadly for the purpose of selling a book, that's complete insanity. And I will put the lie to the individuals of the NIH, particularly Gallo and Fauci and Hazeltine and Essex and the rest of these scoundrels of the worst order. Criminals guilty of genocide, without a doubt. I invite them to take me to court. I wish Burroughs Wellcome would take me to court because they have been putting out a killer drug knowingly. Because in a court of law, I would have the opportunity to provide the absolute proof and evidence, as I have in my book, Deadly Deception. Now, I'm not alone in what I'm doing here today. How does the press escape such obvious truths? Why would the finest virologist in the world, the most noted virologist, member of our National Academy of Sciences, Peter Duesberg, why would he put his entire career on the line? What did he have to gain? He's already lost his laboratory and his funding. They can't take away his professorship because he's tenured. Why would a Charles A. Thomas, professor emeritus of Harvard, say the same thing? Why would Kary Mullis, who won the Nobel Prize in virology last year, why would he stick his neck out? What did he have to gain? These are the questions reporters should be asking. And in order to sell a book, I would inoculate myself with a virus that supposedly is deadly. Ever think that maybe we all know something that you just don't get? That if you take the virus out of the equation, you have a perfectly understandable disease with a perfectly understandable answer. And I might remind you, in case you are not aware of it, and if you haven't read my book, that we have known what causes acquired immune deficiency diseases for at least 70 years. It's in the medical textbooks. It's there for you to read. Number one cause on the face of this earth is malnutrition and starvation. That's African. Look to the headlines of the October 3rd issue of the London Times, Sunday Times last year. And the inside headlines that screamed across 2 pages, the plague that never was. Speak to Philip and Evelyn Kreinen, who head Partage with an organization of 250 people, their own hospital, their own doctors, their own laboratories, who have lived in the heart of the epidemic, supposedly, or the supposed epidemic, for 5 years. There is no epidemic. It doesn't exist. They are there. They're not some character who goes through from the World Health Organization and says, oh, I've seen the people dying. Of course you have. We all saw them on television in Somalia. What do you think you were looking at? That was AIDS. Due to starvation. Due to malnutrition. It's no big secret what's causing AIDS. We've known it for 70 years. Number 2 is drugs. And don't just think of street drugs. Because the number one cause of AIDS today is actually 2 medical drugs. AZT, a drug that was discovered in the 60s as a chemotherapeutic drug for cancer and was shelved because it was too toxic to treat cancer. A drug worse than cancer is being used to treat people who are immunosuppressed. Now let's go back to the other causes of AIDS. So it's not only street drugs but medical drugs, but now 3 is radiation. What do they worry about at Chernobyl and Nagasaki and Hiroshima? But number 4 is chemotherapy. Number 4. The number 4 cause of death of acquired immune deficiency diseases. Chemotherapy. And the most toxic chemotherapeutic drug of all times, AZT, is what they're now using to treat AIDS. And the Concord study, completed last year. Now, can you imagine saying to the world, where was the press? Where are you people? Here they're giving a drug that costs thousands of dollars a year, and it doesn't do any good? That's if you want to believe that. But did anybody here bother to look at the insert, the paper that comes with the drug? It's a DNA terminator. It means it is a terminator, just like the movie. It terminates life. You terminate DNA, you terminate life. And they talk about side effects in the insert. When are you going to learn there is no such thing as a side effect in medicine? It's an unwanted direct effect. And you know what one of the unwanted direct effects of AZT is? Lymphoma, cancer, one of the diseases of AIDS, as they call it. Oh, another so-called side effect, which is really an unwanted direct effect, pancytopenia. You need a definition? Pancytopenia. Pan, all, cyto, cells, penia, loss of all your cells. That's AIDS. That is the definition of AIDS. So AZT, by definition, by their own drug insert, causes AIDS, and nobody survives AZT. That will eventually lead to your death. And they've cut the dosage way down because it was killing them too fast. It's like giving somebody a large dose of strychnine and they die within 5 minutes. And so the next person, you give them a few drops of it and they last 4 or 5 days, and you say, strychnine's a wonderful drug. This person lasts 5 times longer. This is the kind of thing that they present to the world. Now, I have offered for over a year now, and I continue to offer it. $100,000 to anyone who'll give me one scientific document that proves that HIV causes any serious disease. It doesn't. It is a scandal and a scam beyond belief. The virologists who are responsible for this, what do they have to gain? Now, I don't know what Duesberg had to gain, or Charles A. Thomas, or Kary Mullis. He already got his Nobel Prize. Why does he come out and say it? And he's the one that found the test. The PCR reaction. And he said that there is no body of evidence that supports that the virus causes any disease whatsoever. But what about the individuals who have perpetrated this lie? They are all multi-millionaires. What do we have to say about the National Institutes of Health when a private laboratory, independent laboratory, found AZT to be 1,000 times more toxic than the laboratory of the NIH? We can understand a 5% error in a laboratory, even a 10% error. But a 10,000% error? Or 100,000% error?
Yeah.
This is why this COVID thing has been so transparent to me, and I'm sure you, this whole year, because faith in the CDC and the EPA and the FDA has been lost many years ago for me. And I'm supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to do that, and I'm supposed to do this because these people said this to protect you. And I'm like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. These people do not give a shit about me or you.
Right. Yeah. They're looking out for their huck, you know, just like we were showing about old Saint Nick getting the jab from Don Sickle. This they already did this before. It's just now about 100 times bigger. This already been done many times.
The cancer that is Fauci, that is Biden, is truly metastatizing in 2020, 2021. These scams through the NIH and the EPA and the FDA, they are multi-decade at this point.
Generational
and
crimes.
Careers have been built upon their frauds. No doubt about it. We've covered the fluoride issue before.
Wow.
And, you know, it's like Dr. Wilner was just saying, you know, you give someone a bunch of strychnine, they die in 5 minutes. You give them a little strychnine, they live 5 times longer, and you say this is a wonderful drug.
Right.
I think that's a great allegory to fluoride.
Absolutely.
I mean, they titrate the dose. They've done that previously after it's been just kind of undeniable that it's causing an overexposure effect, which is resulting in fluorosis at a minimum, which is the brittleness of bones. This is drinking fluoride, folks. If you're not familiar with this topic, I hope you are, but if you're not, you know, they have adjusted the dose, and they literally call it the dose in your water supply to reach the optimal level. But the optimal level was what you said it was before you adjusted it. So what is this new level? How can they both be optimal at the same time? And it's like, well, what we had before was suboptimal, but we learned something with the science. And it's like, well, what about this science that shows that it leaches lead from pipes, which we know exists in our infrastructure, and we're now definitively getting some lead exposure as a result of your fluoride policy? And they say, well, we don't own lead pipes. You own the lead pipes. We just add the fluoride. And it's like, yeah. And it's leaching from the pipes.
Right.
And they're like, but the level that we put in there is optimal for your dental health. And it's like, did you hear what I said? It's just like dude at the fucking store who won't read my lanyard.
Right.
I know, but you got to wear a mask. It's like, I know about the lead exposure, but you need fluoride to protect your teeth. You need the vaccine to prevent COVID. You need the flu shot to prevent the flu. You need MMR to prevent measles, mumps, rubella. You need, I mean, it's just, you need,
Bojack.
You need to vote.
Right.
Was that a bridge too far?
No.
You need to vote?
It's part and parcel of the same programming. It's the same, model citizen of the NWO.
So this is just a big pharma scam. HIV,
totally.
AZT. They're 100%. Making money off killing people.
That's right.
I've known that the chemo industry is just murderous.
It's like taking your dog to the vet because it has fleas, and the vet's remedy is to get a baseball bat and try and smash the fleas on the coat of the dog.
I got you. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I mean, seriously. And it's like, oh, well, some of those died there.
Look.
See? It's like, meanwhile, the dog has like massive internal bleeding and like broke like 5 of its ribs.
Right.
I mean, it's like that's the kind of quote unquote medicine that, the hallowed arts of allopathic Western, aka industrial robber baron funded rackets. What a great accomplishment. It's amazing. Everything that comes out of it is just, salvific and glorious and perfect. It's a virtue in itself. Love it. Every day, in every way.
I have always had somewhat of an interest in nutrition, and I developed this ethos, I guess, if you want to call it, of or philosophy on eating. And the ethos was, if I don't understand one of the ingredients on the package, then I probably shouldn't be eating it. Do I violate it?
Sure.
Yes.
On occasion.
Yes,
yeah.
on occasion. Does understanding the ingredient mean that it's good for me? No, because I understand what high fructose corn syrup is, but sometimes I still eat it.
Right.
But I try, it was a sort of a guiding principle, I guess, if you could call it. But as you sort of like, if you try to like live that way, you realize very quickly how fucking dangerous it is to just consume what's out there.
That's right.
And
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's the trifecta. It's the depleted soil with the quasi nutrient quantity and quality that foods were just like 80 years ago. Now it's like a fraction of the nutrient density. And then so that's through all the engineering and splicing and frankenfood kind of experimentation. And you combine that with the whole water supply, incremental poison agenda, and then you've got these jab campaigns, and it has a witch's brew full of industrial runoff and lab created demonic artifice. And it's like, okay, I think we see the philosophy behind mass consumerism is really leading us.
Right.
It's the thanatoid misanthropy, and we've talked about that many times before, and that's been a reoccurring theme through all kinds of maleficent
well, speaking of, you sent me this great image. If you're
right.
just listening to head over to Zetetic.news, you can see this this meme that Xavier shared, and it's it looks like Greco theater, these folks in togas wearing almost like marble sculpture masks.
Well, it's kind of harkens to the Greek chorus in like tragedies. and it's just designed to be this sort of setting a theme, setting an emotion, all in unison, and it's a masquerade. It's essentially a fiction.
And it says politics is simply theater for the slave class.
Right.
And I think that's very fitting for what we're seeing on the political stage right now.
Oh.
I think whether you voted, didn't vote, or
wrote in your own name,
wrote in, mailed in 10 ballots.
Right.
The decision at this point is way out of your hands. And it always has been. It always has been.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about, since we've talked many times since the last episode, but if you think back to like where we were in the last episode,
right,
to now, we are quickly approaching this January 6th date where there's going to be another DC showdown of like a bunch of
at the OK Corral.
The OK Corral, and I don't know what you've been following.
Season finale.
But like literally, we've got Biden over here with every single media company on his side. Right? Basically saying he's elected. But then you hear Trump is building an inauguration stage in DC. Right. And is like going to hold an inauguration, or is planning to anyways. You hear the Pentagon is not providing security detail briefings to Biden in the transition team, even though like the head of the transition, the person who like authorizes the spending on the transition team funding, that's like a government office that gets established when there's a duly elected president, and when they are authorized they get money, and the lady who heads up that office like resigned and wrote this very weird letter and said I was being threatened, and Trump's been posturing, and then of course he signed this COVID relief bill, but quote unquote, but with like red lines on it. And now Biden's not going to have an inauguration, but because he's a COVIDiot and is going to just be hologram Joe, like we've talked about before, like literally a Skype in, Zoom call. Well, it would be Zoom, right? Because Zoom is a Chinese-based company. You wouldn't want to do Skype because that's Microsoft, which, well, maybe you would, because you're also doing the business with Pfizer and Bill Gates. With it all goes back to the same kind of group anyways, but like, so we talked about the dual presidency possibility.
Definitely.
Alternative. Where's your head at now with the election and all the things that have like sort of transpired since?
Well, I think because of Biden's sort of, Catholic background, I think that there's a symbology within his being coronated during the Rona, and I think that they want to set up just more fuel to the fire when it comes to disenfranchisement and discontent, and essentially furthering the divide. And I don't know. It remains to be seen. I want to say that. There could be a formal relinquishment to the Harris administration. But I think it would only be because the UN and China and the whole, triple entente against the West has more or less succeeded in infiltrating not only the political dynamic within the party system, but also the culture and the media, and really the entire university system to a great extent. So
definitely Hollywood.
And Hollywood, all the mediatainment stuff. I mean, absolutely, it's all part of this kind of rewrite, or as the Klaus Schwab likes to call it, the Great Reset. But that's really just a a phrase for all the programs that they've been enacting for the past 100 years or so, since before World War I.
Right. All of this has been foretold and predicted, as shown in the Dr. Robert Wilner clip that we just showed. I mean, 94, he's talking about Fauci and the pharma scams with HIV, and Kerry Mullis, who's very relevant right now,
definitely,
since the PCR test is being used to basically establish the jurisdiction for these, further encroaching zip code level, Hunger Game style lockdowns.
Right. Well, and it's, if you look at Gallo and Fauci especially, these are like double and triple dipped, super Jesuit operatives. They're minions, even though they're not formally affiliated with the priesthood.
Right.
They represent another secularized version of the same priesthood because it's based on the same ideology that informs the original priesthood.
Well, that raises a good point. This article you shared, which also my wife shared with me, I have not read, but I do like Glenn Greenwald. The threat of authoritarianism in the U.S. is very real and has nothing to do with Trump. What is he kind of what's kind of his gestalt in this?
Well, the idea is that there's essentially an overarching oligarchical tech stranglehold over information.
Yeah.
And even someone who...
And he's got Tim Cook, Bezos, Pichai, and Zuckerberg.
Ugh. These guys, I mean, you can tell that they're just... They are these little acolytes. There's these, they've gotten the most stars by their name for serving the power structure.
Right.
They're really good at doublespeak. They're good at evasion tactics. They're good at beating around the bush and deflecting issues. And
I think you are so right about Zuckerberg being a top level DARPA android. The more imagery that comes out about him, like when I see him on video or even pictures, like absolutely.
He
looks
not
fake.
He looks like an engineered entity a little bit.
You know how like 3D animators, they talk about the what's it called? The uncanny valley, which is an effect of like, we're really good. I mean, the artistry of the 3D animation world, the video games and the 3D animation, it's incredible. It really I respect the artistry, but they say we just can't quite get you to believe it's real video yet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe they'll solve it with deep fake AI and something like that, but you're animating something. It's not the same as having a soul. And so there's something missing there. And I really see like some of these. That's why I joke about Hologram Joe. Like I see, it's as real as being on my TV right now. Like, yeah, if I go to the grocery store, the propaganda has its effect locally. But if we all just sort of turn the TV off, like, it would be kind of amazing to think about how much of what we feel and experience is actually projected from this hologram, these personalities, these...
Well, I mean, if you look at the structure and how the information flow has changed since 94 during the whole, HIV scam, is there was more ability to actually, ironically, not disrupt contrarian opinion.
Right.
Back then.
I mean, you think about talking about UFOs in 1994. I mean, heresy. Right. Relegated to what? That YouTube wasn't even around at that point. Not even.
You had to search out a publishing company that published
paper.
On the topic, and I think to a great extent, flow of information has certainly sped up, exponentially upon exponentially, and the sheer amount of our ability to store information has certainly increased. But with that has come the same residues and vestiges of the 19th century with the robber barons just essentially commandeering that whole press on the digital mass scale.
Right.
And so
they're making their play. They're making their attempt.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, we had
just think about how in our current epoch, wouldn't you say our current epoch is like what they would say is written history, like Sumerian, like say 6,000 years ago, like epoch as far as what we really know about culture?
Well, that's the thing. It's like how much of it has already been summarily deleted as it's gotten to us.
But you and I don't know.
We don't know.
We have no idea.
Because the scale of information.
So the epoch is truly limited to what they kind of give us.
Well, to a great extent. I mean, and again, it's this old guild system model, but around information. And they have gatekeepers and the controlled opposition and all these tactics that have been developed for, dozens of generations. And it's like, I think that once people realize that it very much is a script to a great extent, that it's like a coder, programmers are so essential for the operating structure of the internet, but to a great extent, human concepts and ideas and rhetoric and language and everything has been programmed similarly through these guild system, inner temple, outer temple societies that have secret knowledge for themselves and prevent its dissemination or contort its dissemination or willfully distort its dissemination in order to, have a Pied Piper effect off to a rabbit trail, something that doesn't, down a rabbit hole, doesn't actually go anywhere towards the real, ultimate realization. And to a great extent, we see that with this whole medical scare. It's through these controlled outlets, there's a sort of a priest class that divvies out information to people that's approved and certified for their consumption.
Yeah, like the whole symbology of the ambulance and the medical symbol. And that goes way back. Like Jordan Maxwell has done a lot of great scholarship on that. Doesn't that make people wonder? At least question where, why? You know what I'm talking about,
Absolutely.
right? Like the double helix. I'm pulling it up now.
Yes.
What is that?
A caduceus.
Caduceus.
Yeah.
Now that's an ancient symbol.
Definitely.
Ancient. These twin snakes.
Yeah. Goes back to Egypt.
And the wings.
Yeah.
And the DNA double helix.
With the snake.
I mean,
'cause that's like the whole like Kundalini as well. That's sort of the
right.
The building blocks of divine energy that creates life and light, and it's very occult, very Kabbalah, very old mystery school, hieratic rites, pre philosophy.
But like literally, we've got Fauci up there, literally promoting, vaccinating Santa Claus with majority content mRNA. Altering the DNA of
messenger. I mean, think about that, messenger RNA. So,
hey, gonna send you a little message. Be like this.
Right.
Be like this. What about like those Pentagon gay bombs? The gay bomb and halitosis bomb are formal names for two non-lethal psychochemical weapons that a United States Air Force research laboratory speculated about producing. Sure. The theories involve discharging female sex pheromones over enemy forces in order to make them sexually attracted to each other. The research and notion today is largely ridiculed for the bizarre idea, as well as the non-effects of turning combatants or subjects gay. Sure it is, just like the largely ridiculed idea of weather manipulation, even though you can look up the United Nations Convention Treaty on weather modification. You can look up weathermodification.com, who has a contract with the Department of Defense and Department of Energy. You can look up the Department of Weather Modification in the UAE and see that they have a very extensive and well-funded cloud seeding program. That's largely ridiculed, but it doesn't mean it's not something that actually works or is developed or is experimented with. So, I mean,
for the bizarre idea, it's like, again, it uses this very naive realism, this sort of superficial orientation to a subject. That's like, oh, whatever my passing idea is upon being, initially acquainted with something, I can determine whether it's ridiculous and bizarre, and then I can discard it, or, if it's something that I'm just going to go ahead and pursue. I mean, it's like, why is that the criteria for investigating things?
Right.
I mean, but that's very common. I mean, I notice in my own family sometimes when you have this, just sort of like shutdown effect of like, oh, well, anything that's being said by me is just going to be contrarian.
Right. Oh, right.
Like
that's the only reason you're saying it. Yeah.
Of course. That's the only reason why I'm saying,
Right.
And again, it's these false patterns of like superimposition. But I mean, it's, that's a very abundant when it comes to trying to inform people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you're working against the trend of it's easier to fool people than it is to convince them they've been fooled. So
right.
That's where the ultimate sort of quote unquote occult power of suggestion within the propaganda sphere carries a lot of its weight. Is riding that trend of it being easier to just fool people than it is to convince them that they
and you're not going to fool everyone. They know this.
Right.
They know this, but they count on the ones who aren't being fooled. Either they're either going to fall into the trap of censorship, or they're going to fall into the trap of sort of giving up after they face that initial scrutiny from their social peers, or they're gonna take it pretty far and then have to make some hard decisions about leaving their job, or maybe doing it covertly with their job and then possibly getting found out and fired and then giving up. But at some point,
something's got to give.
It's a numbers game, and they're gonna fool the majority of people, and that's what we see happening.
Right. And they're very learned at doing it, and they've been operate
clearly doing it for a long fucking time.
Right, and they've been operating with impunity. Essentially, the vast majority of their operatives operate with impunity, and there's no redress against it, really.
Right.
And that's the whole thing of...
It's really, this conversation we're having is redress.
Right.
Fortunately, we're still able to have these sort of conversations. And we want more of them to happen, and I want more of them to happen. And certainly within my family, I want them to happen, so that we can sort of all come together. And I think the fact that we don't really know our true history is so alarming.
That's the crazy to me too, man.
It's so alarming. It's like, and now with COVID, it's like all these esoteric subjects that we really wanted to get into. It's like such a mass diversion from all these things that were really coming out. Like,
that's true.
We were talking about giants, flat Earth. Okay,
mud floods,
the mud floods, Tartaria,
robots, AI, occult thespians,
all this stuff that we're talking about.
The mass pedocracy. I mean,
really, any subject that is impolite dinner conversation is
the stuff that needs to be talked about all the time.
It needs to be what the majority content covered on the nightly news.
Right.
Not all this like fluff and distractionary, violence fomenting, toxic fear mongering.
Oh, and just like super myopic, low resolution binary crap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, because any mainline corporate
my
network.
wife has, so we get served up all these local, affiliate news. It's so debased now.
Oh.
Nobody's reporting anything.
It's like at a 5-year-old level.
Literally, they were like, man found shot in ditch. This was like a headline. Man found shot in ditch. Police rule death not suspicious. It's like, what do you mean it's not suspicious? He was found. This is local news, okay?
Oh my god.
We would just pull it up. I'll have to find it. But literally, it's pretty close to verbatim. Man found shot in ditch. Police rule death not suspicious. And it's like on the daily, people just shot in their cars, attacked for no reason, and they're just kind of just 1 minute segments. 1 minute. That's all we give to this. No more investigative muckraking, reporting. It's shot. What do you mean it's not suspicious? He was found shot in a ditch. That's suspicious in and of itself.
Wow. Yeah, and it's like, well, I guess the implication there is that police departments are going to get real used to just seeing a lot of dead people in ditches. Nothing out of the ordinary.
It's like all those zombie movies and stuff. I really think they were just kind of conditioning everybody to sort of get ready for crowds to be mowed down.
Well,
and there might actually be legit. People joke, I can't wait for the zombie apocalypse. I'm going to come to your house and have popcorn. No, you're not.
No.
No. But no. I've seen people at Walmart that look like zombies. Like walking around with their mouth completely hanging open, gasping for air, like and I'm like, seriously, like pretending to be normal, like I don't have a brain either, so that they don't want to try to eat me.
But I mean, I see the same thing, honestly, and it's so sad because
it is.
It is.
And I used to work in medical field, and I would go into these nursing facilities.
Yeah.
And God, if I didn't have relatives, I have had relatives in these facilities, and they're just horrific. Like, I'm like walking out of there, someone's like bumping in the hallways, like same kind of demeanor, like help. It's like those. Can you imagine what those crazy facilities in Utah you were showing me? I mean, they were housed by insane people, yes? Supposedly. Yeah. Do you want to tee up one of these videos? Because it's kind of an interesting parlay.
That is a
segue.
It's a pretty fascinating segue. You were mentioning one thing earlier that I just wanted to touch on super briefly. And
what was that?
It basically had to do with the whole, crime medical industrial complex.
Yeah.
And that it's really a Munchausen by proxy operation.
Explain for those who don't know what Munchausen syndrome is.
It's a form of, it's Munchausen by proxy.
Yeah.
So Munchausen syndrome would be like basically hypochondria. Where you constantly like make yourself sick by thinking that you're constantly sick. Whereas Munchausen by proxy,
you believe yourself into becoming sick,
essentially, yeah, and that you have a constant justification for self-abuse, essentially, with withdrawing from the world and shutting everyone out. But this is Munchausen by proxy, which is it's an external authority presenting to people someone who they advertise as sick. That's under their care, but isn't really sick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that's what's happening worldwide right now. Is that it's a form of abuse, and it is a psychological trauma tactic.
So this, to me, this cuts right to the whole asymptomatic spread thing. Right? Because
absolutely,
it's one thing everybody already kind of believed. Even you would agree. Look, if I'm sick. To be honest, I'm staying home. honestly, I'm not staying home to protect your ass.
Right.
I'm staying home because I feel like shit.
Right.
Okay? And I don't want to be around people when I feel like shit.
Right.
Do I protect them by being at home? Yes, scientists and medical professionals will debate about that. We can talk about virology, the theory of it, and epidemiology and the spread of disease and all of that, infectious disease, all
the
that.
mythos behind
We
all
can
that.
talk about that, but that's not why I stay home.
Right.
You know, but now with COVID, everybody's responsible for everybody else's health. So not only is that just a given that if you're sick, you stay home, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with it, right? Because it's convenient for me. I admit that I'm just, you know, but the reality is all this lockdown shit, this mask shit, it's because of the myth of asymptomatic spread.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Munchausen by proxy.
That's right.
Implementation, really.
100%.
Is,
How
you know,
do you prove you're not sick to me? You know?
That's what the fucking, you're going to point a thermometer gun at my head.
Right.
Okay, let me break down these thermometer guns real quick. They're infrared. They require 13 to 14 inches for maximum accuracy. With maximum accuracy, there can be, depending on the local environmental conditions, a plus or minus 3 degree of accuracy difference. That is the difference between a normal temperature and a fucking fever.
Right.
Okay? And now you've got every idiot at the ticket booth with a fucking thermometer gun deciding whether you get to access the services that you may or may not have paid for at this point.
Unbelievable.
It's so stupid. But beyond that, everything with the mask and all the face covering and vaccine, it's asymptomatic spread. That's the foundation upon which all this shit stands.
Yep.
You know, and it's a fraud.
Yeah.
Because even if it were true,
Has
anybody ever forensically proven that so-and-so got so-and-so when they were asymptomatic? If they're asymptomatic and you're not testing them, how do you know?
Right.
Well, that's why we have to test everybody, even when they're not sick, because of this myth.
Right.
Even though it's not proven.
Right.
And then the other thing is, you know, it's like some places are saying whether you test negative or positive, you still have to isolate and quarantine. I know a family member who works in a nursing care facility. She had a negative test and they told her not to visit family for Christmas. Negative test. You have to isolate for 14 days and Christmas was day 13.
Oh.
And that's one day too late, the incubation period. That's how stupid it's gotten.
Well, because then it's like, after 2 weeks, it's time to take another test.
Exactly. And
you're positive this
she's
time.
had more than 30 tests this year.
There you go. See, and that is also a form of abuse.
Right.
That's a corralling activity.
That's like a cattle prod.
Exactly.
That's a very good point.
It's a corralling technique.
Amazing.
And this is all human farming, you know, Machiavellianism, essentially, in people's face. But people have so many learned responses to deny reality and prefer fantasy that they refuse. It just passes by. They don't see it, or that if it strikes them as possible, they just try to not think about it whatsoever.
Right.
And that's the vast preponderance of people.
Right.
Is look, plenty of smart people realize that there's probably a whole bunch of chicanery going on here, but they kind of don't want to rock any boats.
Right.
They just kind of go along and
the
hope.
social pressure so tough in some places.
Right. So you can be intelligent and still be kind of, you know, swayed by the force majeure of noblesse oblige and, you know, social pressures and, you know, status mongering about your level of compassion and how much you care about the world.
Right.
You know, these are all, again, weaponized emotivism, everyone.
Have you noticed the Biden push and sort of parlay to climate change?
Oh, well, isn't it great that we haven't had so much activity? I mean, hey, you know, maybe we need to have
Greta got what she wanted.
Absolutely.
She got what she wanted. How dare you, you know, say your prayers at the altar of infinite economic growth or development.
Or, you know, how dare you think that maybe there's more resources than we're being led to believe?
Infinitely so.
How dare you
Starting with gold, we had Bix Weir on our program, and he talks a lot about all the gold that they, you know, because like if gold is the foundation of our fiat money system, and they're in control of how much is publicly known to be above ground.
Exactly.
Well, it's a fucking casino.
That's right.
And the house wins.
That's right.
They decide, they know you know, they get to conceal how much gold they have, truly. So they get to completely, I mean, the fiat money system is just a fucking joke at this point.
Oh, it's again, it's going to become worth less than toilet paper.
With the COVID, the rolling COVID, the COVID relief bills are just excuses for QE 8 and 9 and 10 and quantitative easing. I mean, who talks about quantitative easing anymore?
We've dispensed with the easing. It's full on just acceleration.
Ben Bernanke must be driving that helicopter at this point.
Quantitative
dropping
hyperdrive.
No. We're not even going to spend the gas on the helicopter to drop the money because that contributes to the carbon footprint. We're going to make it pure digital, baby, to save the earth.
That's right.
And we're going to get rid of the plastic cards because plastic is bad for the earth. That's why we have to inject you with a microchip.
That's right. Well, because that's going to take up a lot less space, and you know, the software guys over at Microsoft said it's totally cool. So, you know, we might as well have that subscription / cryptocurrency.
Who's that Satanist who did the VR display? Maria Abramovich. Yeah, she says it's cool. So
that's right, and she's an artist. You know, she's one of the top 10.
An artist for real?
Yeah, she's one of the top 10.
She's an artist, then I'm going with that.
That's right, and that's
speaking of art.
Yeah.
I want to play this clip of I really need to pee.
All right.
And I want to play this clip.
The robot.
You know, you've seen this, I'm sure.
Well,
this went viral like 10 hours ago, officially when CNBC television said YouTube needed it to go viral.
I think that this is like predictive programming as well, because you know how you see all those videos of, you know, the nurses in the trenches, you know, doing the Macarena.
Right.
The robots are now doing the dance moves too. So that's a little bit of like a subtle power of suggestion that one's about to replace another.
Not only that, but the name of the song that they use for this is "Do You Love Me?" Do you love me? These are friendly. These are friendly robots. They're here to help. They're
100%.
here to do the twist, to have fun, to put on a show, and to serve you, right?
Well, especially if the CEO of Facebook is like Data, essentially. So like Star Trek Next Generation.
We got to do a side-by-side.
Side-by-side.
We got to do a side. But did you just think of that? Because he fucking looks just like Data.
Because Data is a very sophisticated android, and they dreamt up with
I'm
this
pulling
model.
up Photoshop right now.
And it was supposed to be just pure sci-fi fantasy, and we know about the whole inversion principle within the media, that what they display to you as pure, you know, fancy of the imagination is probably where a lot of the black budget money has already gone.
Right.
And that the thing that they present to you as an absolutely verified historical, you know, moment in time is just a complete farce, and it's just a hogwash, essentially. So there is a little bit of an inversion principle going on with the robots, because back in the early 90s with the Next Generation, they already came up with this incredibly sophisticated androborg that, for all intents and purposes, was indistinguishable from being human, with the exception that he had these glaring, serpent-like green eyes.
He did.
And hyper pale, like albino skin. But what if they just, artistically were able to create an actual androborg in the same capacity, but had more realistic human features? You don't think that trillions of dollars and, raw taxpayer dollars
they exist?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Well, I mean, I think that there's more artistry around the eye, because who knows? There might be an actual physical specimen, but he probably doesn't do all of the appearances.
Right.
It's also possible that that's the case. That you've got the whole occult thespian, lookalike operative intelligence network. But then you also have all of the experimental androborg, black budget bot experiments that, quite frankly, we don't know to what extent taxpayer dollars have been used.
We have no idea. You'd never be able to audit that.
Never be able to audit it.
You gonna file a FOIA request on that, guys?
Right.
Really?
Never.
Look.
Literally, if you're
kidding me.
I'm telling you, dude, there's something to it.
I agree.
There's something to it.
I agree 100%.
It's Mark Databerg.
Data. That's right.
Yeah.
Data. Well, doesn't that make sense?
Data. Exactly.
Amazing.
Isn't that incredible?
Look, if his eyes were green, and they kind of are in some
pictures, that it could just be, that's a natural.
Look at that, guys.
Pigment.
Look at that. That's incredible. That's live time, baby. We're gonna put that out on our Instagram. Okay, I'm gonna pee myself laughing at this. So I'm gonna play. This is. If you're just listening, this is head over to Zetetic.news. Check us out. We got a video component. This is the Boston Dynamics robots, which we talked about in our previous episodes as being sort of the, the police class, the new police. Your new bartender, your new nurse, practitioner,
your new landlord.
Your new neighbor. He's gonna be coming to deliver packages to you and all that. But do you love me? Do you love me?
Right.
So I actually have some doubts about whether this is real or not.
Right.
It looks, there's something
Animated about it. Yeah. I mean, that's
it could be just very, very, very fine cinematography.
Right.
And a very high quality lens with
Hyundai, interesting.
I think at this point, if it's a robot, we're not going to really be able to tell.
Well, and here's another thing. Think about that. The entire robotic infrastructure inventory, patents, and everything by Boston Dynamics is valued at $1.1 billion. Okay, how
It's
many
taxpayer money?
Yeah, how many trillions of dollars did the Fed just print this year?
It's nothing.
So it's like, wait a second.
It's like these super engineering nerds having fun with a ton of money to a civilian. It's a ton of money, but in the grand scheme of things,
it's generated in like half a second.
But again, this is what they publicly tell us.
Right.
This is what CNBC is willing to show us.
Right.
In a PR stunt.
Precisely.
So, I mean, I do think they have robots like this. But you know, I wouldn't be beyond them to just, you know, like, it's expensive to do that with a real robot.
Right.
Just fucking animate it real quick. And,
right.
You know, we have robots that are purely, you know, will do what we need it to do, but we don't need to fucking pay for that.
Of course not.
A choreographed.
And their movements are probably a
that's
little
a wasteful expenditure of our funds that we need to spend on other dastardly projects. You know, let's just pay an animator to do it. You know, so it's just a purely cost savings type of exercise. But I don't know.
But it's still, you know, ominous that you know, all these taxpayer dollars have been funneled into creating basically replications of the Terminator.
Right.
And it's like the whole Schwarzenegger, like, again, there's another example of a fully formed Androborg before even Data. You know, a killing machine that looks exactly like a human. Wow.
And wasn't Skynet from Terminator actually came to fruition in the UK?
Mm-hmm.
That's just a network.
Right. Oh yeah, it's just a media network, of course.
Just a media network.
Well, yeah, it makes you wonder. Also, think about that Skynet, right?
Mm.
Our sense of the sky has been captured. It's being held hostage by an imaginary configuration of a sky vacuum. So our whole imagination about what the sky is, what the ether is, all the heavenly bodies, you know, that's also
that reminds me.
You know?
That reminds me of a meme we posted on our Instagram, pertaining to the flat Earth eschatology, and it basically puts together the Great Pyramids of Egypt, the Great Mayan Pyramids, and the Great Wall of China. They were all built by flat earthers. So, you know, I've seen some comments out there on the THETA live stream that, you know, is anybody really watching this stream? Hey, you should take this shit off of THETA. It's a bad look for the network. It shouldn't be there. It's a bad look for THETA. Well, you know, I'm pretty sure that the folks who built the Great Wall of China were smarter than you.
Mm-hmm.
The Masons, the great Masons of antiquity, all the marvelous great structures of ancient Greece, all those people were flat earthers, were they not?
Well, and actually, there was a great preponderance of people that have believed for a long time that the whole heliocentric ball worship has been a farce since its inception. And they existed in pretty significant numbers in the 19th century, from what I can tell. The entire Victorian era was populated by people who doubted the so-called evolutionary and heliocentric cosmologies. So in that sense, maybe there are much more recent builders of things that had at least non-heliocentric convictions about the nature of their reality. So that does cue into the John Levy clip that I sent you about.
I don't have that pulled up. But what shall I search for?
You just go to JON LEVY. I think that's right. Yeah, there he is. And then it's the hospitals and temples, mental health castles, right there from 1 week ago.
All right, so for the uninitiated, because we've talked about flat Earth, so to speak, or the planar phenomenology, the globetardia aspects of our discourse. This one, if you could summarize.
Okay.
Mud flood.
In a nutshell, large swaths of history are being censored from us, especially mass geological events that essentially literally bury entire civilizations away from view.
Let me just,
And
I want you to
full
continue,
excavation.
but you're teeing me to say this. I've always found it strange, the subject of excavation. Okay, I get it, right? Like, if I just left this building we're in right now to nature, eventually the soil would accumulate from the years of leaves and stuff, and if I didn't like rake it away or maintain the environment, it would eventually be underground.
Right.
But it's always been interesting, like excavating an entire city.
Right.
And now that could happen over many years, but it could also happen very quickly.
It could also happen relatively quickly, especially if you had a way of taking the mud or the soil away with some rapidity and putting it elsewhere. Or essentially, we don't have a very good grasp, historically speaking, as to how modern construction techniques cannot replicate certain constructions that even within the past 100 years stood as just a nonchalant construction of several hundred talented people that just managed to not have the use of cranes and only had use of horse and buggies and these grand
so John Levy catalogs these sort of instances of constructions,
inexplicable construction capability for populations.
And what is this sort of is there a conclusion made that there was some sort of event that caused these to be submerged in clay? Or
he posits the notion that perhaps people that we consider ancestors from the past, they may have had access to technologies that we do not have privy to in terms of free energy capabilities. And that perhaps there was all kinds of conflagrations that could have produced mass geological upsets as a result of the weaponized use of some of these items from antiquity. This antiquitech, he calls it.
Antiquitech. So this one is about hospitals and temples. Okay. Human warehouses, he calls them.
So the time code on this one, go in at about a minute 45.
All right. Let's get past this advertisement.
Yeah.
I'll come back and add better audio.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Not new construction. What happened?
There's a lot of them.
Dude, there's dozens of them. Well, the asylum, the matter so hallowed that we have to build literal cathedrals and mansions for them.
So what is there a formal explanation for why? I mean,
the idea is,
are they still in operation, these places?
No. Many of them have closed relatively recently. So this is what the Great Reset. This may mean something big is coming that will wipe away the residues of this clearly better history that we have that we're not being told about.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I've been to some buildings here in North Carolina that are just immense and incredible and have been erected in a very short period of time.
The Vanderbilt.
There's also some cathedrals in Asheville, which have very unique dome structures, which were developed and built in, times like this before
Duke Chapel. That one's.
You know the
pretty
stone.
wild.
You know the stone. I knew a local contractor who said the stone is from Pennsylvania. It's only.
Look at this. This is supposed to be built for 1,500 insane people.
That looks like.
Are you kidding me?
That looks like the facade of Disneyland.
Well, that
even bigger, even more grandiose
bigger.
than the facade of Disneyland.
Way bigger. Look at that. It's like got to be at least 40,000 square feet. Absolutely mammoth. I mean,
Why would the
look? They have horse and buggy. How did they build
I don't
that?
think people appreciate look, your grandma, most people's grandma can't afford. Listen, you heard what I'm saying? Like, people who have money, they pay for so-called nice amenities, which are, like, not even close to that.
Notice how they occlude the wings to make it seem more modest, but it's actually unbelievable. It's like almost the size of the Biltmore.
Why would they? Yeah, why would they? Now this is it not just excess on the part of government because they're collecting so much tax money? Well, they're not really, because it's not in the 1860s.
Yeah, think about the population size. So small.
Yeah, right.
That doesn't justify that construction for that small of a need.
That's insane.
I'm telling you, dude. And then the water temples are wild too. This is all the Antiquitech Tartaria lost civilization thesis. And
fascinating stuff.
I think the lost civilization stuff is really.
Well, I saw one. The YouTube channel is not there anymore, but it covered the. There's a great palatial installation in Europe somewhere where all of it didn't have any indoor plumbing, but it was this mammoth construction.
That's right.
But it did have fountains. There were many fountains, but they were all naturally running, like
all naturally fed, and
but they didn't have indoor plumbing.
Right.
So why would they build such a massive construction with no bathrooms when they did have the technology for running water and sanitization?
Well, see, it makes you think. Are we the same entities that built them?
Maybe the entities that built them didn't need to take a shit.
Exactly.
They were spirit beings, perhaps?
Well,
energetic beings?
I think that it's possible they had a better understanding of using magnet as well as vibrational vectors to decrease inertial mass, so it was easier to levitate things.
Oh, like at Coral Castle?
Right.
That dude in Florida who levitated a bunch of stuff.
Exactly.
And hid. He was like, I discovered the secrets of the ancients. And he built this crazy Coral Castle out in Florida using those techniques, but never shared those techniques. But there was some postulation that it was some electromagnetic, vibrational related technology. So you shared with me a patent. On that note, I know you're trying to tee me up on that.
Yeah. And it's basically it's a patent that displays a triangular, UAP, UFO, whatever you want to call it, that essentially resembles the craft that I have seen, and what it shows is that you can actually reduce the inertial mass with high power resonation chambers as kind of as a sort of engine, and you can create things it makes them lighter essentially, and can allow them to float.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding the exact patent you shared. I know you have it in my Telegram, but I didn't send it. But yeah, it was an interesting. There's a lot of patents out there for exotic technologies, which I think are. We've talked about before disclosure, and I think that's always looming. It always seems like there's this. We were talking earlier about like David Wilcock and others in the alt media sphere, the disclosure media sphere, and there's a debate about full disclosure versus soft disclosure, which we've talked about. Some thought that Trump was going to disclose, and he even recently tweeted that he's going to be disclosing a bunch of declassified information or classified information before he possibly has to leave office. And he says that's what I'm doing, but it's clearly only classified information related to the political game that he's playing. It's not necessarily like all the shit that is out there. It's just select stuff that is favorable to his particular situation at that particular moment. But then he signed this COVID relief bill with red lines, and I read that there's like a 180-day timetable for disclosure on UFO related information that the Pentagon and other 3-letter agencies have. And we know that the technology is out there. It's popularly depicted in X-Files and also referenced by Hillary Clinton on several talk shows, and also witnessed by you. You know, so what do you think about this 180-day time frame for disclosure?
Well, that's 60 plus 60 plus 60. It's just another occult, you know, reference point. It's 6 months. Yeah, 18 is a sort of a 666 cryptic numerology. So I think that what they're saying is, all right, within the next 6 months, we've got to do another big leap forward in terms of consolidating public attention, compliance, and all-out nonsensical insanity, essentially. So, but we have to weaponize it even more than the boogie bug. So I'm thinking that the UFO thing is them trying to roll out some of the holographic tech. I don't know if it'll be per se a, you know, grand invasion like we've seen with Independence Day. Although that kind of holographic depiction could take place. We've seen instances in various popular media, including one of the Spider-Man films, that depicts a swarm of drones that can create what appears to be a solid entity, and through the use of clever weaponry can simulate explosions and, you know, destruction that actually does take place, but is shrouded by this high order 4 plus K, you know, maybe 8K level 3-dimensional depictions. So, you know, maybe they don't go full bore like that, but we've seen all these suggestions of meteors and asteroids coming in to, you know, looks like a giant exploding sun in the sky, you know, careening towards the ground. Well, that could be any number of weapons that they're using to they're shrouding with holographic tech.
Well, you know, it's interesting you bring that up because there was an article by Mike Adams at Natural News about the situation in Nashville regarding the explosion, and he talks about satellite weaponry and directed energy weapons, and he references Mark Esper, the former defense secretary, who we played on a previous episode.
That's right.
Talking about China possessing killer satellites using directed energy weapons at the United States. And it is part and parcel to this whole Space Force weaponization of space that Stephen Greer talks about, that this goes on. But at the same time, they fucking do have these weapons. They, for all intents and purposes, to us, right? Whether we believe in the infinite negative vacuum next to a positive system, the Earth without a physical barrier, and gravity and all this shit, whether we believe that or not, they do have
pure imagination.
They do have, you know, levitation devices, including helium, guys, definitely, in a hot air balloon, or just hot air, not even helium, just hot air, and weaponized balloon platforms. No doubt about that. They got directed energy weapons that they could give you a fucking heart attack.
Sure.
If they wanted to.
Yeah, but they're not spinning around at 17,000 miles an hour around a giant space ball. That's where...
That's a panopticonic projection, in my opinion.
Right.
You know, to get you to believe a certain... what's the word? It's the German word for worldview. Weltanschauung. You know, a certain worldview that limits your capacity to psychologically endeavor to explore.
That's right.
I agree with the Eddie Bravo thesis on why the motives of a globe Earth ideology.
Sure, it's
right?
It's an artificial scarcity model. It's it's cartographic censorship. It's a way to tell people this is all there is. Don't even bother. Get in line at the animal farm. You are human cattle. Don't you understand?
Get your vaccine.
Right. Oh, actually, you need like 20 doses every week too, because one is not going to be enough, and you need to keep wearing the face diaper indefinitely. And even that won't protect you. So you might need one of these giant helmets that measures all your carbon intake with your breath. And then you'll really know what it means when space has been weaponized, when your own breath is being counted because you're on spaceship Earth and there's only so many resources.
Yeah, you see now the drive coming to the fore for the COVID passport.
The grand synthesis.
Yeah, it really is.
The grand synthesis, the grand Jesuit
the
synthesis.
Immunity passport.
That's right. The boogie bug contagion, microscopic infinite threat, and the macrocosmic fear of cataclysm and a meteoric apocalypse all coming together. And us, us in the middle, it might as well be, fall in line. Do as you're told. Papers, please. And then, all this crazy stuff is going on in the Middle East again. Iran is, positioning. And there'll be another huge conflagration in the Middle East, and that'll get carved up, and that doesn't even make headlines anymore,
Right.
That's not even talked about, even though it's been at a fever pitch for over a year now. And that it hasn't halted. It's like maybe paused at times because of all this stuff, but the tensions there are real high.
Hey, let's do a bit of a recap on 2020 and a retrospective on our various episodes.
Oh, that's right.
So this was the first episode of 2020 that we did, and it was called ZNN's Top 20 Mega Singularities, January 7th, 2020. So I guess COVID, had it been in the news at that point?
Only very peripherally. It was like, in
China.
Yeah, but it was like starting to affect the U.S. markets a little bit at the end of December.
Right.
It was like, what's gonna happen? ... Kind of like, oh wait, aren't we in the same position except we've been printed into receivership? ... I mean, it's all about, we are the reality TV show. We are the NPCs in the zombie apocalypse. We have to experience this, sacrificial theater.
Hey, look at number 2 on here. Number 2 on our list of mega singularities.
Number 2
was health wars.
Wow.
Fluoridation, chemtrails, 5G, electromagnetics, vaccinology, and Skyreezy.
Is it too little too late
for humanity? Yeah. And what did I linked here is Seattle vaccine mandate. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, the internet has been incredibly sanitized.
Very dodgy.
Even within a year, it's been absolutely scrubbed.
What else? 2020 American election theater. Can the U.S. corporation reinvent itself again?
Oh, very apropos.
Oh, what's interesting? Okay, number 5, societal surveillanceification. If it was known to be an alien plot, what won't we put up with?
And that was all right around the time of the whole, Real ID starts 2020. So what do you think the Real ID, it's already been implemented.
So this is the thing.
Colored law.
What was interesting about what I was going to mention is I noticed that they delayed the required, so it was October 2020, it was required due to circumstances from the COVID pandemic. They extended the Real ID enforcement deadline by a year.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
because it was incomplete. They needed the immunity passport component embedded into the real
and they
ID.
need all the states to get in line because different states were in different sort of cadences.
They even got the damn countdown right there. Jeez.
Right?
Wow.
So get ready, folks, because if you think for 1 second that the UK is going to implement a immunity passport and the US isn't, you're mistaken. Because once the UK does it, then all the other countries are going to be like, okay, well, we need to include this to accept UK passengers. We're not going to not accept UK passengers, so we'll just get on board.
And check for the star.
Right.
You know, it's like
Star of David.
It's like, well, stars are being applied to us once again.
Yeah.
It's just through a different vector, different medium, different pretense, same purpose.
Yeah. We talked about the FBI finds DMV records a gold mine for facial recognition. Well, now the facial recognition is a fact of life in China.
Right.
It kind of was even at the beginning of 2020, but now it's you go to certain Walmarts, you check out, self-checkout, and you notice how there aren't as many clerks anymore checking you out. It's going to eventually be all self-checkout. There's going to be just a little camera there, a friendly little robot.
Mm-hmm.
And, they might not be able to identify you immediately. They're going to figure that out eventually with the DMV records and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But they are going to be able to immediately say whether you have a face covering or not.
Mm-hmm.
And right now there's kind of this intermediate period where people are deciding or not deciding to resist or not.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually you will comply. Because the machine will not let you leave the store until you wear the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And so these cameras, I feel these cameras are there as a preliminary step, an infrastructural investment to get it all in place before they flip the switch on pure, you can't have the food that you need to eat unless you comply
in one form or another. And it's moving the Overton window,
Yeah.
Once the immunity passports come out, it's like, oh, well, then the masks become the signal of those who are resisting.
Yeah.
So then the masks become like just a way of life for people who before thought everything was going to go back to normal and are like kind of shaky that everything is continuing, months and years and, seemingly like eons into the future. So they're like, I don't know if I want to get the immunity pass. I guess I'll just wear a mask, So the masks are being Overton windowed and they'll eventually flip. The mask will be like, oh, you're like a leper.
Right.
Eventually it's going to be a form of stigma.
Right.
And right now it's used as a form of care.
But
then
hold on, the American Disabilities Act means you can't deny me service because I have a disability, right? And my disability is a threat to my freedom is a threat to my health.
Right.
And you're threatening my freedom right now. And so that's a threat to my health. And I'm my own doctor and I have a prescription against that. So
don't be surprised if under Lord Biden, Queen Harris, that they're going to try and amend some of the language in these health insurance portability acts, so they can essentially make their decrees have more teeth.
Right.
So they can be like, oh, you can't cite this anymore. You now have to literally present papers.
Right.
And
no.
That's going to be the next step.
Look, so I'm going to put together this ad for the lanyard, right?
Right.
It's not a panacea, guys.
It's not a panacea.
It's not a panacea, okay? Because you still have to have the conversation. You still have to think and anticipate through what people are going to say. And this is, so right now, you can say you've got a health. I already had this conversation, right? I can't wear a mask. I've got a health condition.
Right.
Oh, you can't wear a mask? Well, can you wear a health visor? Health visor.
Right, health visor. Well,
A face, a visor. Can
Right.
you wear a visor? Look, it's about, you can't tell me what to do.
right.
So, you pick your battles, right? Like, you
Right.
got to kind of figure out how you want to navigate this. This is one way.
Right.
But, again, you're going to have the conversation. So you have to think through all that. You're never going to be able to anticipate everything that somebody's going to say because there are crazy people out there. But
Oh my God. And it's getting crazier by the week, it seems.
it definitely.
Well, because I mean, when you deprive someone of their oxygen, it's you're reducing their you block the airways for protracted periods of time. It reduces the breathing. It cuts off circulation. It reduces brain activity. I mean,
I hate to say this, but
but even like surgeons who are getting paid $5,000 an hour to, they have their little mask on. That's only because it's in a sterile environment and to prevent a spit going in an open wound. Has nothing to do with day-to-day activity.
Right.
And so again, this more of these false equivalencies that have populated in people's minds as justifications for this subjugation nappy. And people are now just using it as a security blanket, and that's going to become that's the whole manufactured culture of consenting to this kind of compliance is, it's a way for you to excuse being, evasive and antisocial, and that's just more excuse for you to look into the screen and peer into the Palantir forever. And,
listen,
yeah.
On number 8 on this list of mega singularities we talked about for 2020, this is really way before in the US. It's way before any major COVID action.
Yeah,
will the transhumanists succeed in getting humanity to adopt false worlds full time? Dude, what a step they have taken.
An incredible step there.
In 2020,
Incredible.
where now everybody who can is working from home, and Zoom meetings are a family affair now.
That's right.
We're having Christmas over Zoom now.
That's right.
AR is a fact of life. We can augment our appearance with fake bunny ears and
That's right.
cutesy dog eyelashes and other bullshit on Instagram.
That's right.
We connect with our family over Zoom. Everybody knows it's not the same, but they pretend and they put on a show, and maybe you have a virtual background, maybe you don't. We talk about it. Ha ha ha. It's so funny, isn't it? It's so fucking funny.
So funny. Well, and it's like, doesn't that just go right to China? So they just had, it's just like a big data fusion center operation. Yeah. And it's one of those things. It's like,
you can't be a company in China and not do business with China. Okay, so
right.
Zoom CEO data China. Zoom admits data got routed through China.
Duh.
All these corporations, think about the proprietary information that's shared under non-disclosure agreements on conference calls on Zoom.
Absolutely.
Goes right to the...
Absolutely.
And you know what? You know what, though? You know what, though? It all goes to the U.S. government, too, guys.
That's right.
You do a Skype call, you do Cisco WebEx. You think it doesn't go to the U.S. government?
Of course it is.
It's the same.
Everything is this. It's being funneled into an overarching.
Five Eyes. Yeah. Edward Snowden came out with old news.
It
was old news when Edward Snowden reported on Five Eyes, and Glenn Greenwald, really made his name out there on the NSA disclosures. It was old news by the time Glenn Greenwald got a hold of that.
Of course.
I commend him anyways for at least talking about it. Ed Snowden, good for you, man.
there's a thesis that says there's no such thing as an intelligence whistleblower. That they're really just kind of gatekeepers that come out with some truth, but then spin it and occlude and omit in order to sort of justify the ongoing, operation, basically to normalize it, to hyper-normalize it. And I think there's something to that angle, and that Snowden, he's probably relatively low level. If you did feel like he was leaking information, it was information that they were able to just let leak because it had been going on for so long that it wasn't a real threat that it got disclosed. And so that's why every disclosure is a soft disclosure. There's never been full disclosure.
Right.
And I don't think there ever will be. That's just my cynical side, but I mean, I think that that's the way the information systems are rigged, and the generational programming is, those trends are still really bearish, and I don't see them reversing anytime soon. Now, I think that there's going to be a lot of resistance against this idea that, no part of the system really has a lot of efficacy or can be trusted. People want to have some sort of bigger thing that they're a part of, that they can reach out and, be a part, be connected to. We're all in this together, huma guma, collectivism, universalism. That seems to be a very prominent programming mechanism.
Definitely.
In the public mind is, I've got to be a part of something bigger than myself. And if that means I have to just let someone else tell me what to do, then so be it. And it's like that explains religion.
In fact, now that becomes
science,
the new sacrament. That becomes the new sacrament, is being told what to do and complying with that, and
being very efficient and enthusiastic in your compliance.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't gone maskless in a hardcore mask area, I suggest you try it. Try it and see how it feels. You can feel the energy of the population, the literal projections of mainstream media being imbued into your being electromagnetically. You can feel the
animus,
the
envy, and the ire,
you're getting eye raped in a way when you go maskless in a hardcore masking area. And we don't need to belabor the point with the many instances available on numerous social media platforms of people getting into confrontations and stuff. We will be putting out an advertisement for our lanyard demonstrating its efficacy. But this is why it's coming to a head for sure. I've experienced that in my own personal life, and I knew it was coming, but at the same time, I didn't expect it like this.
I know.
It's like I always expected it to happen overnight. But then it happens, and it's like it happens faster than I really thought it would.
It's the whole Groundhog Day effect.
It is.
It's like you keep waking up to the same sort of nightmare.
You do, and that's again speaks to the vertically integrated nature of the media. It's like we wake up, and is Lester Holt going to incite another race riot, or are we going to get some crazy climate change propaganda that results in an immediate effect on my gas prices?
That's right.
Or is Mr. Mayor over in Durham going to sign a piece of paper that says I can't
walk around,
pay for my wife to get a manicure without being harassed to wear a breath inhibiting fluoride mask?
Right.
It's so volatile and so escalating. It's
true.
Q1 2021. Man.
Yeah.
I need to learn that on the ocarina.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I mean,
what do you think's gonna happen with the election?
Well, okay, so, oh man, it's tough. What I think in my
we're
gut,
getting into white hat, red hat, black hat theory,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes, definitely
on the Alex Jones side,
Right.
Trump is a flawed but a good guy,
right?
Okay, and he's making a real run to save the republic,
Right.
Okay, so he's setting up an inauguration stage. He's going to have a legit in-person inauguration by the people for the people in DC. There's a bunch of leftists who are going to try to disrupt that. There's also a bunch of like middle left and center people who are going to be there, like Tim Pool,
Right.
supporting Alex Jones and supporting this and supporting Trump. Trump is definitely, I think he's the popular choice, among the public. But is he really resisting the globalist, as Trump, as Alex likes to say?
Right.
Is it a true resistance? Is it going to work? Those are all very different questions, but that's what I'm wondering at this point, just being sort of an armchair news sleuth.
My gut tells me that if he does go through with the, inauguration, that
who when you say
that Trump.
Okay.
So say that there's sort of a contestation that happens during the certification of the votes on the 6th. Say that there's a quorum or a filibuster or something that could occur on January 6th.
Right.
That, throws even more doubt into the overall trajectory of what January 20th looks like. That seems likely to me.
You've already had a senator
right.
basically contest the Electoral College.
Right.
And granted, all the news reports, including Snopes and PolitiFact and everybody and their mother, say,
of course,
well, that means nothing until the House says something. But tomorrow, the House will probably say something.
Right.
One person in the House will probably say something, and then that will be a moot argument. And now we have to report on.
Right.
It's the news cycle's been fucking crazy.
It's been absolutely berserker. It's really hard to keep up, honestly, and that's why I try to do sort of broader swath treatments of multiple topics.
I think that's why this program works for us.
Exactly, because to a great extent, the outcome is kind of immaterial to an extent. I think that they already have all of the mechanisms in place to just continue with the operation of the Great Reset and the re-education of the masses towards a totalitarian regime that is sort of neo-Roman.
It's such a valid point, because when I talk to people about the election, so call it, I just like to ask questions. Well, like, what do you think is going to happen, or what about this and what about that? And regardless of the outcome this time, some people normally it's very polarized. It's very, if this happens, well, this is going to happen. If that's going to happen, if this person wins, this is going to happen. Now it's like, regardless, him or her, it's chaos.
Right.
It's violence in the streets. That's either way. And I think that's by design.
That's right.
That's by design.
It's by design. and I think trying.
Y'all didn't see that?
I know.
Y'all didn't see that?
That's what.
You didn't see that coming. That's why you got to stay home.
That's right.
That's the best reason to stay home. Forget about COVID.
That's right.
To fucking stay out of the.
Defend your keep. That's what it means.
Feed your family.
That's right. To a great extent, that is the signal, which is, there is an extremely persistent factional war
sort of going on within the oligarchy that is all about which path to take forward now. They do this every 20 years. They do this every 20 years. They did it in 1980 with Reagan. They did it again with Bush. And this time, it's kind of like, do we flip the script and introduce a little more volatility with only a 4-year stint for Trump? And then,
why not mix it up?
Mix it up.
Mix it up a little bit.
So they do this every 20 years.
It's a remix.
It's a remix.
Remix. It's kind of like what you heard before.
Now
it's kind of like that oldie you really liked.
Right.
That old school head. You know, he's 70 something.
Right.
He's from that era you remember so fondly, but it's kind of remixed.
That's right.
Still in the GOP.
Yep.
Still in the GOP. Still got street cred with the GOP.
Right.
But it's a little different now.
A little different now. Because back then in the 1980s, that was on the heels of the entire swine flu pandemic of 76 and all the fallout of the Guillain Barres. And, you know, Big Pharma didn't like paying those settlements back then. They didn't like that. So they needed a conservative to roll out the Vaccine Injury Act of 86, the year we were born.
That's called the right-left paradigm, folks.
Right.
Alex, do you know what that is anymore?
I know, dude. Like,
Alex Jones, do you know what the right-left paradigm is? You taught it to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you at on that?
I totally forgot about it.
Okay. Is it because you're just older now?
Oh, I gotta say what's good to my friends. I guess. I don't know.
I know some guys in Texas.
Right.
He didn't really say that. I just made that up.
But you know, and then again with Bush is they had to flip a coin. They were like, all right, do we go ahead and steamroll the carbon tax stuff now, or do we just have that in the background? And because I this is the whole controlled opposition game, is whatever they lie about on the campaign trail is sort of kibitzing around potential policy swaps that happen in the next election cycle.
Yeah, the contract they make with you folks is not the contract they make with each other.
It's exactly.
And with the special interests in the lobby.
I mean, you really think that like Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan like really hate each other's guts? You know, that they really just have such, you know, animus and are so at odds with each other, being pro wrestlers making, you know, a bunch of money off of an act.
Right.
You think they're really at odds? I don't think so. They have beers in the back, and you know they snort the same cocaine, and you know they all hang out. It's the same thing with the pedocracy. Like, they control both parties because they both swing in and out of the invite only kind of environment,
right?
That they grow up in, and that they are granted their power in to a great extent. Do you know that the Bohemian Grove is overseen by the Diocese of Saint Hubertus and the Knights of Saint Hubertus? This is like
what's the significance of that?
Roman Catholic diocese has like a formal designation of Bohemian Grove as like one of their protectorates.
Well, if you know anything about the Roman Catholic Church, that's not even surprising. It's like kind of like expected. It's like
right. And so if that is part of the course, people like get that, then are people going to pick up on the fact that the entire idea of contagions were seeded by Athanasius Kircher, who's a high order Jesuit priest? You know, like the whole notion of an independent organism that is microscopic in nature and just feeds off of life and has, you know, no reproduction per se, but just spreads and can't be killed, and it just has essentially invincible.
It's theory, right?
It's theory. It's imagined as a pest, right? It's this mythological pestification of disease, instead of it being a direct effect of learned behaviors, toxicity in the environments, consumption patterns, it's what have you. No, it's an external entity. It's a being that forces you into certain vulnerabilities and behaviors from the
So
outside.
really, it takes you out of the equation.
That's right.
Of
health.
your own health.
That's right.
You are no longer the steward of your health. It happened to you.
Right.
It's
granted
something
to you.
that you stumbled upon.
Right.
You know, like a thorn.
Health is a privilege.
Like a thorn.
Right.
In a grassy knoll, which was hidden from your view. You know. Yeah. You know, it's like it goes back to the asymptomatic spread issue, right? Because regardless of how, because I started to like kind of lose my train of thought about, well, I've always had a keen interest in nutrition, and I always try to eat things, you know, that were simplistic in their composition, because I felt like if I didn't understand what was in it, it was probably inherently not what I needed to feed my body. And
that's a good principle.
And my body is gonna know how to deal with whatever it encounters if I give it the right things.
Right.
And if I don't have the right things, I will be susceptible to disease. It's kind of like a natural, logical conclusion and deduction.
Right.
But you don't hear, you know, even in the short time I worked in the medical industry, I worked with doctors who admitted to me, they literally said to me, I don't know anything about nutrition, but they'll be a cardiologist. They'll literally have gone to like multiple years of medical school, yet they admit to me they know nothing about nutrition. Now, I took an interest in nutrition for my own self-interest because I was like trying to compete as an athlete. And so I was trying to like piece together the puzzle, how to compete better. And it kind of just naturally led me there. How you become a cardiologist and don't know anything about, or want to know, or seek to know, or required to know through the universities about nutrition was like mind-blowing to me.
Yep.
And that was like a big light bulb moment for me, that I'm on an elevator with a cardiologist who's going on a smoke break to eat a bunch of cafeteria fried chicken with hydrogenated soybean oil. Like, I was like, what?
Right.
So,
it's because he had the patience and tolerance of withstanding the guild system initiation that is medical school. Essentially,
absolutely, because I could never do that.
Well, and you don't even retain 95% of what you have to regurgitate to pass things. You know, I mean, it should be no surprise to people that every vantage point of expertise is the manufacturing of an identity through a guild system, through a gate-kept initiatory practice of in-group, out-group.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Well, it is interesting, too, because the stratification of the different practices, right? So I worked across different floor levels at Duke Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Duke was a tobacco magnate, by the way. Don't know if y'all know that, but they run a hospital across from the water plant that fluoridates everybody with byproduct of the fertilizer industry, which was used in the tobacco industry.
Right.
Side topic. The stratification of practices, you got cardiologists, orthopedists, you know, podiatry, all these different strata of health. It's like all the same being. It's like all the same being. Y'all are all, we're specialists. You're specialists.
It's
but
like,
in your specialty, you ignore the whole.
Like, imagine a kitchen where you had a professional that was a dedicated dish collector, but he only could fetch forks. You had to get another guy in there to fetch spoons, another guy to get in there to fetch spatulas, another guy to get in there to fetch trays, and before you know it,
you're out of business. You're out of business,
and you can't cook anything because no one knows how to cook anything in the kitchen. They're all just collectors.
Right.
That's what's become of medicine. So imagine if you had a restaurant that, you order something and, an hour and a half later, someone comes out and it's like, look, I've done my job. I've collected, all the things needed to produce the food. We just don't have any food anymore. We only notify our customers that they're paying for the experience of us presenting to them everything we were specialized to do, even though the end result is complete dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your time. Come back again. I mean,
you're welcome.
But instead of going out of business, they get subsidized and they get even more callous.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like,
well, they get rewarded for their activity.
They get rewarded
for their activity. So why wouldn't they continue to act that way and actually
they have zero liability.
Amp it up a little bit?
Zero liability too. Everyone takes 100% of the risk, and they have 0% liability, because even when there is a summary judgment, of which there can only ever be a maximum payout per case of $250,000, guess who pays the $250,000 to the injured party? The taxpayer, not Big Pharma.
Right.
Okay. It's kind of like the Catholic Church, where they get a small business grant of $4 billion, the same exact amount of all of the combined sex abuse cases over the past 25 years. How interesting. Yeah, just pay that off. Okay. All right. Business as usual. Let's keep on. Carry on.
Right. Did you see this guy?
Yeah. Oh. Dear.
20-year-old charged in beating elderly nursing home patient. And this was a guy, sent in here for COVID reasons.
And he ends up just getting straight up abused and beaten in this supposed place of healing and care.
Medicine.
Medician.
Police say the suspect is 20 years old and it's unclear why he was being treated at the nursing center. Again, this video is hard to watch.
It's hard to watch.
We have blurred much of the video because it's so hard to watch, and it appears the person who set up the phone to take the video is the 20-year-old suspect himself. Now the video of the brutal assault on a 75-year-old man.
This isn't the full video, obviously.
Of course not. Oh.
And then he's like broadcasting this on his social media like he's cool. Modern medicine, baby.
And it's just to make the phonetic connection to the Medici, right? Medicine, Medicine. It's Medici.
Tell me more.
So the Medicis were, a prominent oligarchical powerhouse in Italy, and had a lot of dealings and trades with the Venetian oligarchs, of course, and had various family members that were popes and cardinalates and, super high uppity ups within the Catholic Church. And that's ultimately kind of where a lot of the inspiration and ideology for modern medicine came, was from Catholic or Jesuit priests.
Mm. Are you familiar with the plague mask of Italy, the death mask that the plague doctors would wear when they came to take the patients who so-called had the plague?
Oh my gosh. Well, wow. With the long nose?
The long nose. Uh-huh. So I made the connection that I feel like Fauci, not only is it an Italian sounding name,
Right.
But he actually looks like these masks.
Right. That is interesting.
So if you look,
like he looks like death. He does. He does look like the death mask.
and
That's so interesting.
I brought this up to my wife, and she didn't really get it, but she also kind of got it. You know, like he's got this big schnoz, and it's also, you know, he's Italian, and he's like the plague doctor.
Yeah.
He's literally like the modern plague doctor.
That's
who's
right.
going to come around and determine, you know, sort of who is and is not
he's
infected.
He's an inquisitor.
Yeah,
he's literally like
he's
a modern day inquisitor.
virus inquisitor,
right?
The conquistador of COVID, and I just think he looks like.
Look at that one. Little bit further up. That one really
it's
does
called
look
a
like
plague mask. I
plague
think.
mask.
So here you go.
Oh yeah.
So I think this is Fauci.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just how his fucking face looks to me.
Plague mask. Watch that come back as a fashion statement now.
I'm sure it already is in some BDSM
yeah.
cultures, you know.
Oh yeah, that's something out of Eyes Wide Shut. That's really, really macabre.
But this is what let's see if there's a plague doctor. Okay, a plague doctor was a physician who treated victims of the bubonic plague in times of epidemics. These physicians were specifically hired by towns where the plague had taken hold, like a zip code in New York City. Since the city was paying them a salary, they treated everyone, wealthy or poor. Look at them.
It's like a proxy for the Grim Reaper or something. Wow.
It really is.
Wow.
And speaking of the Medici out of Italy, it seems very fitting. It reminded me of this.
Absolutely. Dr. Schnabel.
Yeah.
And the idea is that it's supposed to protect them.
Yeah, protect them while they were dealing with disposing of the infected. Who were to be burned.
Dressed like a crow, a literal scavenger bird going after the dead.
Yeah,
it's so obviously masquerade macabre. I mean, it's definitely of the same. I could see how Edgar Allan Poe was.
The
inspired
protective
by it.
suit
Yeah.
consisted of a light waxed fabric overcoat, a mask with glass eye openings, and a beak-shaped nose, typically stuffed with herbs, straw, and spices. Plague doctors would also commonly carry a cane to examine and direct patients without the need to make direct contact with them.
Oh my goodness.
So this is what you guys are putting on your face when you go to buy your lemons and limes.
Yeah, you're summoning the plague doctor.
Look, their principal task, besides taking care of people with the plague, was to compile public records of the deaths due to the plague.
Wow.
So an examination.
Bring out your dead.
That's literally what this is all about.
Bring out your dead.
No,
That's
this
right.
is what that's from, for sure.
Right. That's right.
For sure. And if you're just listening, thank you, first of all. But please subscribe to us on YouTube. Check us out on THETA. There's a video component to this. We're looking at the Wikipedia for plague doctor. Very apropos in these times with COVID-19 and soon to be COVID-21. Did we just skip over COVID 2020? What's up with that?
Well, that was where we're no longer tallying flu and pneumonia.
Oh, so that was the subtraction in the whole math equation.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because then it'll be a HEPA virus next time, and not only will it be airborne, it actually lives in the air. It's so aerosoled out and so microscopic that you've got to wear a mask when you shower, when you go to sleep, when you brush your teeth.
So earlier in the year, I had a birthday party for one of my children, and I have a aunt who is a nurse at Duke Hospital.
Right.
and she's very open-minded, but she's also a nurse in probably the most established medical institution in the world, right? Duke
Top
Hospital?
5.
Been there for 20 years probably.
Johns Hopkins.
Okay.
Yeah, same kind
So
of thing.
she comes into my house, and we keep it mad normal here.
Yeah.
You're actually not allowed to wear a mask in my house.
That's right.
Unless it's Halloween.
Right.
And we say on the invite, costumes encouraged.
Encouraged.
So she comes in wearing a mask, and I point and laugh at her. Look, I got to go through hell buying groceries, not wearing a mask. You coming in my house, I'm going to give you hell for wearing one.
Right.
She's trying to be conscientious.
Yeah,
I work with the sick. I don't want to infect you. Hey,
I don't need your protection.
I don't need your protection, and I've read the studies. It's not going to prevent me.
Right.
So if you work with sick people, go home, take a fucking shower.
Right.
And then come over.
Right.
And then you're good.
You're good.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
When did we forget this? Take a fucking shower.
Mass memory hole.
And come over after you take a shower.
Right.
There are morticians, people who work in a morgue every day.
That's right.
You take a fucking shower after that.
Right.
Some people work in the sanitization. They clean toilets. They clean the sewers.
That's right.
Take a fucking shower and then come over to my party.
Right.
What the fuck have we done?
Yeah. Well,
and she took it off. She's like, nobody's wearing a mask here. And I was like, no, they're not. Not here, not at my house. We keep it normal,
right.
And she did, and it was cool, and she's cool, and I love her. But,
it's the same thing, man. I reached out to an old friend. I hadn't seen him in like 4 years. And a precondition for me to even hang out with him was I needed to at least produce a negative test result or paperwork that I got in the shot.
That boggles my mind. That boggles my mind when you say that.
Be outside in the cold with masks on at least 6 feet apart at all times. No exceptions.
Outdoors?
Outdoors.
Okay, but I don't know what state y'all were in, but in North Carolina, if you're outdoors, you only need to, quote unquote, I'm doing big air quotes, need to wear a mask.
If you can't
maintain social distancing. So is it that he cannot be with you and not be 6 feet apart? He must hug you, therefore he must wear a mask? Or is it that he doesn't understand the law? Or is the mandate in the state you were in such that you needed to wear it and keep social distance?
Oh no, this is in Greensboro.
Okay, so he could keep his social distance and not wear a mask, and y'all would still be good, right? Oh no, but you needed a shot too?
Well, it's one or the other. Either the bare minimum for indoor fellowship is a negative test result. And even then, it's like, prefer to be outside. We don't have to wear masks. But if I get the shot, I can come inside and behave as normal. Or if I don't want any of those things, then I have to be outside with a mask on.
Did you ever consider hosting him and then you setting the rules?
Yeah, no, that's his rules for whatever he goes, whatever he does.
Wherever.
Whatever he needs, yeah.
So you didn't even discuss whether it would be at his place or your place?
Initially, I was going to be there. And so once I found out those rules, I was like, well, don't think I'll be getting a test anytime soon because I feel fine. But let me know if that changes, basically, like, what do you say to that? I mean, it's so hyper restrictive. And again, it's based on this premise that all the information he's getting is 100% true
Right.
from the mainstream, from Lord Sickle Fauci,
which varies by the day. Like they
flip-flop
they flip flop all the fucking
times.
time. Like the mask wearing, the
Walmart's okay. Home Depot's okay.
it's
Target's
so
okay.
ridiculous. It really is. It's so ridiculous. You know, I don't want to press you too hard, but like, if you invited him over to your place?
No, it would be a requirement for him to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So you don't even bother.
Well, it's kind of like
you already kind of know his answer, so why bother? You know, it's kind of like my brother. You know, he doesn't want to meet indoors. No indoor meeting. Only outdoor meeting. Okay. Well, that means if I'm having a social event at my house, I'm not going to invite you because
I want to hang out inside if it's cold.
Exactly. Or I might have an awesome charcuterie board that is only available inside, and you know people are going to be mingling there. So
right,
because it's normal here.
Right.
So you're just eliminating yourself from my social gatherings that I have at my house. Now, if you invite me over to your house and it's only outdoors, I'll come to. That's fine.
Right.
But that it's anti-social distancing.
It's anti-social.
Social distancing is a contradiction. It's a contradiction of terms. It's an oxymoron.
That's right. Correct.
It's
more this Orwellian doublespeak, you know, complete violation of language. You know,
that's really been a very
new normal.
A hallmark of 2020 is the linguistic control.
Absolutely.
Upon which, you know,
essential worker.
starting with coronavirus.
Oh yeah.
Coronavirus, COVID-19, novel, CoV-2, you know. SARS-CoV-2, H1N1, social security number, you know, like, now, what, hold on, no. Let me see, COVID, just in time.
Mutant? Oh, yeah, we're doing the mutants.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
COVID mutant strain, just in time. Hey, guys. New year, new Gregorian year. We're going from 2020 to 2021. We have to have a new strain, guys.
Oh my god!
Right? We need a new strain. It's been discovered, guys. The authorities.
It's already here
in California, in Southern California.
Of course
it would. It probably in the epicenter, the geocentric center point of San Francisco. They've probably discovered.
There is no. Again, this is all Santa Claus fairy tale garbage, pseudoscience.
If you're listening, I'm showing an article from Mercury News about the highly contagious UK strain.
No evidence
discovered in Southern California. It's mutated. The new strain for 2021. So in case you thought 2020 was bad and over, and we can move on, think again. Here comes 2021 coming at you fast with a mutant strain. We're going to have to do, you thought lockdown was bad in 2020. Get ready, folks. It's 2021. Food lines.
Keep your social distance.
Keep your social distance.
So that literally
routine checkpoints. County checkpoints. In North Carolina, they've got a county-to-county alert system, which we talked about, I think, last time. And they're already implementing, certain monitoring and checkpoint installations to slow the spread. Gotta slow the spread.
Well, it's like this spread. How about we spread the earth, you know? Let's spread out our concept of what the earth is.
Are you pro-human or are you anti-human?
Yeah.
That's really the question of 2021. Don't you think that's the quintessential question of 2021? Are you pro-human or are you anti-human?
I think there's a lot of anti-humans out there.
I think that's probably the name of this episode.
Yeah. Anti-humanism meets, next level medical communism. Yes, I mean, it's basically, it's a form of anti-humanism. It's, techno-feudal, hyper-medicalized communism, which is basically what we have now. It's neo-Bolshevism. It's a form of neo-Bolshevism. And it's extremely volatile, and it's very it's extremely destabilizing. What the goal is destabilization. People have to remember that, and it's doing a really good job.
Even within your families, I'm sure it's definitely happening within mine. The destabilization effect of COVID and its psychology.
It's this manufactured culture, and it's a maliciously manufactured one too, because it's all based on, chicanery and skullduggery, basically.
Right.
And it's like, but it presents this saccharine image of itself as, some salvific, last order of care consciousness.
Right.
And in doing so, it appeals, again, emotivistically, it bypasses rationality completely and appeals directly to people's base instincts. And it shows how effective that measure of social engineering and mind control really is, when you appeal to people's base instincts of, I don't want, grandma to die. What can I do to prevent that from happening? It's emotional extortion. It's psychological extortion.
They're very over the top with it now, and they have been for especially the last 12 months.
And it's
hey, I'm serious about this.
Right.
You want grandma to die?
Right.
Because she's gonna die.
Right.
If you don't do what I say.
Right. Or it's like, do you just not care that people are dying? It's like,
I've even had my own mother say to me, when I thumb my nose at the various restrictions, listen, I posted a request for a recommendation for a anti-mask, a non-mask wearing friendly beauty parlor, and I had the whole neighborhood basically ostracize me and, shoo me into silence because of the clear disrespect I was showing the dead. And my own mother, despite her she's truly concerned about some of the inconsistencies of the COVID death reporting and the restrictions that have been put into place from an economic perspective. She's still like, but a lot of people have died.
Right.
But a lot of people have died. Well, if you believe
in the labeling
fake
process,
statistics, fake statisticians,
fake
and
statistics,
chicanery,
Simpson's paradox
at the highest order.
Sampling errors, sample size errors, sample size origin, data malfunction. Look at the vulnerabilities of how the disease is even classified as a disease. First of all, they still haven't presented any evidence that it's a novel, anything.
Right.
Zero.
Well,
Zero.
Forensically, how would anybody
how
verify
could you?
it?
How could you?
How would you verify it?
Right. Do you have some like one size fits all?
How do you
template?
verify asymptomatic spread? You can't.
You can't. Because you'd have to have a one size fits all template that would universally apply to every single person at all times instantaneously in order to see how and when and by whom things are spread, supposedly.
Right.
Whether symptomatically or asymptomatically. And we don't have that.
It's so
even
bogus.
Though they are trying to create it with the AI thing. It's almost like in their mad scientist, religion.
But you know what's interesting about that is that includes consent. You have to tell them. You're almost telling them to tell on you.
Yes.
By downloading the app, giving them the information about where you go and who you interface with.
Right.
And then you are essentially saying to them, you can decide when I have been a vector or when someone else has been a vector. That's up to you.
And I'm
giving you the information, and I submit to you.
That's right.
I submit to your judgment on that.
Please turn me into an avatar for your surveillance
I
purposes.
will use the front-facing camera to take that picture.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like one thing that I think that back in the early 90s, when there was a lot of dissent around the whole HIV scamdemic, there was at least the ability to gather and hear contesting opinion. There was some semblance of, needing to entertain the quote-unquote other side. But see, now everyone has a little Palantir in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And then it literally barks news stories that have a monolithic script attached to it. So there's no frame of reference for any contrasting point of view anymore, really. I mean, not in the mainstream, not what gets blasted.
Well, Xavier, that your reality is really just shaped by the news channels you listen to, right?
Oh, okay.
Have you ever met someone who promulgates that sort of ideal?
Absolutely.
Well, you're just, you can just consume what you want and I'll consume what I want, and we can each agree to disagree and both be true at the same time, and we're all living happily.
100%. That's very widespread attitude.
Except that's not how it works.
It's not how it works.
We got to wrap this episode up. It's been I think, an awesome summation of 2020 and 2021. I want to point folks to another great source of information, and that's The Simpsons Predict Instagram. And it really encapsulates some of the best instances where The Simpsons are really showing everybody, what is being done on a large scale. They
Revelation of the method.
Revelation of the method is the best way to put it. I'll play this first one, and then we're gonna wrap this episode up, episode 16. Oh shit! All right, I'll come back in post and play that episode. But it's been great for your. It's been great having you, Xavier, to talk through the latest developments since our last episode and the updates to our website. Look out for the lanyard to hopefully come onto a future ZNN store. That'll be available for some amount of T fuel, possibly, and or US dollars. We will find out in the final equation. And I think you're working on an article.
Yeah, it's pretty much done. I just have to tag it and put in the videos.
Awesome. And also look out for us on Theta Network. I'll provide links and other instructions how you can stream us live and earn T-Fuel cryptocurrency on the Theta Network by relaying your bandwidth and compute capacity to the decentralized video streaming network.
Which will absolutely obliterate YouTube in the next 5 years.
Which we have to do. We have to do that in order to preserve our right to freedom of speech and evade these big tech censors. Any predictions, prognostications, reflections on 2020 or 2021, Xavier? In closing, I know that's a loaded question, but
in closing, I think that not only is hindsight 2020, plain sight is 2020. So we have to look at the tyranny that's hidden in plain sight. So I think 2020 is a good symbolic visual / mnemonic number. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was 2020. So there's like this little aphorism that I created. So for those who want to honor the future, they remember the past. And for those who want to honor the past, they remember the present. And those who honor the present remember the future. So 2020 is like this Janus point, It's like we're looking in all directions in a way. Looking at the fiction upon fiction that has infiltrated our sense of history and time and space and what constitutes health and safety and freedom. All of these kind of sort of quintessential elements to what we deem to be cornerstones of civilization are very much called into question or destabilized in a way that really has little precedent. So in that sense, it's very, exciting and momentous time to be witnessing, but it's also very ominous because this is not a amusement park spectacle here. This is a sacrificial ritual.
You're here.
Cult.
Yeah, you're actually part of it. You're not just a spectator. You are
That's right.
a participant. You're on the main stage, as we all are.
Manifestors.
Right?
Yes.
Co-creators, really.
Yes.
And that's why these little things like wearing a lanyard at the grocery store, or not wearing a lanyard, wearing a funny mask that starts a conversation that is different than what is the prescribed method by the so-called authorities. That's important because we don't want to get into a real shooting war. We want to get we want
a velvet revolution. We want people to mock this putsch and this coup attempt.
Yeah.
At literally undoing hundreds of years of sacrifice, bloodshed, and battle. It's trying to roll it back, pre-Civil War, maybe even more.
Yeah.
Maybe back to Magna Carta days.
I like the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, I mean,
choose your own currency.
Yeah, there you go.
That's why we promote Theta and
that's right.
other cryptocurrencies, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Golden, VeChain, Link. I mean, whatever. You're responsible for your own financial destiny. So choose your own path, really.
Just like at an airport, there's so many destinations.
Absolutely. Different currencies. You can go to the airport and change it into renminbi and the lira and the franc and the peso. You can do that too. You can also go on the internet and learn about Theta and learn about cryptocurrency and learn about gold and silver and learn about the banks and see what's going on there. But it's been great.
Absolutely. Fun times.